Welcome to the Take 92 podcast. This is Sammy Warm Hands. I'll be your host, and we've got a very special episode today. I recently went out to Minnesota and visited a lot of friends and met a lot of new people as well. And it was for EYEDEA's birthday, 5 years after his passing, and it was a pretty profound experience for myself as not only a longtime fan, but a person who knew him for a brief time at the end of his life. And that was a crazy experience in and of itself. But in those last 5 years, all the people that I've met, the community that's gathered around him is a testament to how many lives he touched. And someone of his skill and his success level, having that kind of humility and compassion for his fans and for other artists is just a unique and rare quality. And I got to sit down with 14 different people who contributed to this event in some way, and hear their stories as to how they met EYEDEA and were introduced to his music. And I'm really excited to share this with you guys. Side note about the sound quality and the format, we're changing it up a little bit because we got so many guests. I usually do like an hour and a half with somebody, but we're doing about 5-10 minutes a piece with everybody, and then I'm sitting down with Crushkill Recordings label manager Brady O'Rourke at the end for a full-length interview. And sound quality varies a little bit, as I had to give up my recording equipment at one point to document the show itself for a possible DVD. So there's going to be times where it sounds like studio. There's going to be times where there's a sound check going on in the background, and times where we record on the iPhone and some audio interference on some of these. But I think we got some really great substance here and some great stories about the man and his influence and how he touched us. So thank you guys for tuning in, and I'm honored to be part of this event.
EYEDEA.
All right, so here we are on location in Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Absolutely.
And we're at First Ave at the EYEDEA 5-year birthday celebration. Mm-hmm. And I'm sitting here with Seez Mics.
Hey.
How you doing?
Good. How are you? I
Good.
feel like, can I curse?
Go ahead.
I feel like a fucking hack compared to you. You got like a computer or microphone set up. When I do my podcast, I just roll up to random people with my iPhone. I'm like, talk.
Well, sometimes you don't need all this, but like I said, I'm the new guy.
You're the pro,
I'm figuring
man.
it out.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's how I know. So I just wanted to get an excerpt with some of the performers tonight.
Word.
I'm going to have a conversation with Brady from Crushkill. But
Okay.
How were you introduced to EYEDEA's music, first of all?
Okay. I started rhyming in like 94, 95.
All right.
So by 99, 2000, when he was winning all the battles, I was doing battles in the DC area. And so he was the guy that was winning Scribble Jam and Rocksteady. So I just got tapes and would just dive into watching his battles and sort of diagram that. And then the next thing I was like, oh, and he also makes amazing records too with Idea and Abilities.
Yeah.
And that really influenced me to be able to do a little bit of everything. You know, try everything, freestyle, battle, make records, as opposed to, you know, pick one lane and stay with it. And then eventually I got to tour with him. I was in a group called Educated Consumers for a long time.
Yeah, great stuff.
Thanks, man. Thank you.
One of the original Crushkill acts, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
They put out the last album that we did called Winning Winter. So I had known EYEDEA through battles, and then I hit him, it was crazy, on MySpace in like 2007 or 8, and I saw that he and Abilities were doing an East Coast run. And so I just messaged him. I was like, hey, man, it's Cole. We'll do these shows, like 7 or 8 shows. We'll do it for free. Here's my number. And I didn't think I'd hear from him. The next day he called. And he was like, all right, cool.
Awesome.
Yeah, I mean, when we talked about it later, he was like, I wasn't just like in a daze and like rolled out of bed and called you. He's like, I checked out your stuff. He's like, I knew who you were and was aware of what Educated Consumers had done, but I wanted to see where you're going. He's like, absolutely.
That's awesome.
So, yeah, it's fun.
I've heard those kind of stories from people before where they write to him and never expect to hear anything.
Right.
And he's so personable and just,
Yeah. It was always, and I'm sure you had this experience with him too, where I think that there's a lot of, not even fakeness, it's just sort of people being polite, but you don't expect that integrity from somebody who was as high up as he was.
Yeah, that's what blew me away is like when I met him, it was after a sound check when we were going to open for him.
Yeah.
And the sincerity of like, I'm just setting up the merch table, and he walks up and starts asking me all these questions about the band and why we do what we do, and we talk about recording techniques, and like 15 minutes later, he's telling me about how By the Throat is made and all this stuff. I'm like, why does the Star Destroyer guy give a fuck about me right now?
Right.
And it blew me away.
Yeah. I think it was, he saw the interconnectedness in everybody, and it was like, he was the Star Destroyer guy, and we are who we are, but we were all connected in some way, and he wanted to tap into that,
Well, and the great thing is that even now, 5 years later, I'm still meeting people all the time who I would have never crossed paths with if it weren't for events like this, or even I'm out there on tour and people see, the first words out of my mouth are, my name is Sammy Warm Hands from Crush Kill Recordings, and people come up to me and tell me their idea stories every night. I'm sure you get the same.
Yeah.
And so, like, even now, after his passing and years have gone by, the community's still growing.
Yeah,
it's in his wake.
It really does show you how one person really can make that much of a difference. I think it's easy to feel like you're getting lost in the mix, but one person, if they persevere, and I mean, he was otherworldly talented, but I think that it was important to him on and off the stage to be that legit and straightforward with people, and it does go a long way.
Yeah, and you can see that with the people around him too, whether it's Kathy or whoever. That genuine.
Except for Brady.
Brady sucks, but we'll get to that later. So,
thank you.
All right, so where can they find Seez Mics music?
If you go to SeezMics.com.
How do you spell that?
SeezMics.
And you've got your own podcast, right?
I do. I have a podcast called Chrome Bills, CHROMEBILLS. That's on iTunes and SoundCloud.
Awesome. Thanks, man.
Thank you, Sammy.
EYEDEA.
And next I'm speaking with my friend Michelle Kernney, who is going to be kicking off the show tonight and talking about the band that she put together just for this event.
We don't really have a name. We are kind of going back and forth with Cannabis Incognivity Syndrome just because it was funny.
All right.
But 5-piece band. We've been together for like 7 weeks. We came together to do the show.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So you go pretty far back with Michael, right?
Yeah.
How did you
We grew
meet?
up on the same block together, so I'm a few years older than him, and his mom and I have been friends since, I was like 18, 19.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then Mikey was just one of the kids on the block, and we used to watch him do the breakdancing in the driveway and just all kinds of crazy stuff, and then his mom asked me to give him vocal lessons shortly before he did the Blaze Battle.
Okay.
So
he's still probably 17 around that time,
16,
something like that?
17,
Yeah.
something like that, yeah. Yeah, it was probably about 6 months before he did the Blaze, and he was just starting to set up the studio in the basement.
So then you do vocal lessons for how long?
I did vocal lessons with him for a few months. He really just needed to learn some breathing techniques because he was running out of air.
Which is everything when you're rapping that fast.
It is, yeah.
All the time.
And that was the problem, was like he would run out of air before he would get done with like a stanza. Before he could finish saying it, he'd have to like take a breath, and then the flow's gone and everything. So I taught him some techniques, and that was where we started. And then he really wanted to learn how to sing, so we went into some singing, which was very entertaining for me, and he worked really hard, and we had a lot of fun doing it.
I remember one time we were talking about By the Throat, and when the first, I think before they even put a single out, they put out a video on Rhymesayers of a live performance of Spin Cycle.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa, this sounds pretty cool. And then the chorus comes in, and he's singing it, and I was like, this is weird. And you go, yeah, you could thank me for that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly it.
Yeah, it was one of those records where, like, I heard the one song by itself, and I was like, I don't know what the fuck this is. And then I heard the whole album, and I was like, oh, God, okay, this makes perfect sense.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. So he had a lot of fun with it. And that was just who he was expanding everything all the time and reaching out and branching out and going further and pushing himself further and just getting to where he wanted to be. And I don't even know that he knew where he wanted to be.
I feel like for a creative person, it's all about the journey of the process of finding what the next thing is going to be.
Yep. You get to that level that you were looking at, and then you just want to keep going further and doing more. Well, at least I do. And
I felt like listening to some of his stuff, it was almost like, okay, I've mastered this. I'm going to try something totally different and do Carbon Carousel or do Face Candy or something like that.
Yeah, with Carbon Carousel, it was kind of... we went to a show that he did at a place that doesn't exist anymore, the Artist Quarter. And I hadn't heard any of the jazz, fusion, crazy stuff that he was doing yet. And we walked into the basement, and we were just standing there like, what is he doing? And then he like started singing, and I was like, oh my God, he's using it. And it was pretty incredible when he started doing.
You were probably pretty stoked when he started doing the solo stuff then too, like the When in Rome and that kind of stuff. I was really, really happy that he was doing all of that, and not necessarily like getting out of the rap game or whatever you want to call it. I'm not hip hop, but sure. And I didn't used to be, so yeah, I get it.
Exactly right. We come from the same school, so it was just really awesome to see him expanding out and trying new things and not getting stuck. Because I see a lot of musicians, like a lot of really incredible musicians, talented, smart, really creative, and they get stuck. You know, like they find one thing that they're really good at, and they kind of stick there.
Yeah, just kind of try to repeat, capture the success of the last
rinse,
thing, or
repeat. Yeah. And like you said, he's always trying to go on to the next thing, and like, oh, I did this really well. Let's try this and see how well this works out. So that was really, really cool to see. Really cool.
Do you, before we go, do you have any like favorite memory from back in the day, growing up on the block that maybe you'd like to share?
You want me to cry right here?
No, I don't. Just maybe a funny one. How about?
He did have a really great sense of humor, and he was always picking on me, and I didn't really have that kind of sense of humor back then to be able to let him chastise me. But
so you couldn't flick the shit back then?
No, I would get all offended, and then he would laugh, and he'd be like, "I'm just messing with you," and he was awesome. I think my favorite memory is the day that he got all of like the original Pro Tools that he had, and he got his Mac and everything, and he kept calling me. Like, we live 2 houses down. My mom still lives 2 houses down from us.
Yeah.
So, and he kept calling, and I finally answered the phone, and he was like, "You got to come over here." And so I went over, and we set up everything, and then I went into the studio, and he wanted to see how the auto-tune feature on the Pro Tools worked. And so I went into the little sound booth, and I don't know if you know that it was like a closet, right, with a window.
I've only seen how it is now.
Okay, so the room that is the merch room now was the original studio. And back in the corner where that single bed is where people stay, that used to be a closet, and there was a hole cut out, and we put a piece of glass in there and then put a door on it. So it was literally like you're standing in a closet that wasn't much bigger than this table.
Yeah, just a vocal booth.
Yeah, just a vocal booth with a mic on a boom stand. And so I start singing, and he and Janessa...
And he's fucking with the auto-tune?
Right, and he's messing with the auto-tune, and he's like, okay, sing something, and I start singing, and he's like, well, sing something off key. And so I'm trying to sing something off key and trying, and he's like, and Janessa and he are just standing there staring through the window, and Janessa's like, how does she do that? He's like, I have no idea.
How do you unthink all the training you've done?
Exactly. Like, I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to get that done.
That's funny to me because it makes me think of my favorite Face Candy moment when they're playing with the auto-tune on the second record.
Yes.
I loved watching the outtakes of that on the DVD of them just rolling around on the floor laughing at it.
Yeah, and trying to just mess everything up.
Yeah. It was a good
He
time.
had a lot of fun, and that was the best thing about him, is that he was so lighthearted, and
as heavy as the music got, he was always just a pleasant dude.
He was.
Every person I've met is talk about how he's always bringing people up and
he's always
using his powers for good.
He's always taking the elevator back down and bringing the next person up with him.
Exactly. Yes. Cool. Well, thank you for joining us. I really appreciate it. Can't wait for the show tonight.
Yeah, I'm stoked.
We're going to have a lot of fun.
I'm stoked. Yeah, it's going to be a party. It's going to be fun. Thanks, Sammy.
EYEDEA.
What was your favorite word that you wanted to bring back?
Pontificate.
Oh, okay.
I think more people need to pontificate their thoughts.
Good save, by the way. All right, so here we are again on location at the First Ave show, the 5-year birthday celebration for EYEDEA, and I'm sitting with my man Sadistik. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks for asking.
We're all here to talk about EYEDEA. So, can you remember the first time that you heard his music? How were you introduced to his sound?
Yeah, it was like 2004, I think, and I drove like 2 hours from Eastern Washington to Seattle before I lived there, and to catch an Atmosphere show. And at the time, I'd never even heard EYEDEA's music. I just recognized the name from the internets, and I was just completely blown away by his performance.
Were they doing was that the E&A record was out at that point?
It was before the E&A record, so yeah, at the time I didn't know what to expect, and when he came out, I was completely surprised by what he looked like.
Yeah.
And then I was like, who's this guy? And then he just started fucking wrecking it immediately. And he did an acapella start of Even Shadows Have Shadows.
Yeah.
And then where Abilities like drops the drums partway through or whatever, and it definitely made a big impression on me, especially like at a point where I was more impressionable with music, and I wasn't as like jaded with something, so some things could reach me easier. And
were you making music at that point?
yeah, but not very well.
Okay.
No, yeah, I mean I was making music at that point, but I was still definitely like in the early stages of finding myself. I just wasn't aware of it. But it was a great performance. I remember he played Now and things like that weren't out yet, and it was definitely the highlight of that show for me. It was such a pleasant surprise. So I remember like seeking out, trying to find his records the next day around Seattle, and I couldn't find them. And it was a cool lineup, man. It was Gray Skull, Blueprint, E&A, and then Atmosphere.
Wow.
I forgot what the tour was
shout
called.
out to
it was
everybody.
cool though. Yeah, I remember Atmosphere killed it too.
So when did you actually meet Michael?
The first time I met him was at a show in Seattle that I was opening for them. I remember distinctly him introducing himself as Michael and me being like slightly taken aback because I was used to rappers introducing themselves by monikers.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah, which is cool. It's kind of telling of his approach, I think. So.
Did you guys end up touring together or just doing some shows? Or
we were on a tour together, but we didn't tour as like
that's right.
and Sadistic. It was
he did the acoustic thing, right?
Yeah, it was one of my like really early tours that I booked myself, and I contacted Christoph Crane to see if he wanted to do it too, and when he agreed, then I don't remember how long it took, but EYEDEA just called me out of the blue, and he was like, "Hey, you're going on tour, and I think that's a good idea. You and Chris working together." And I was like, "Cool," and he said, he was like, "Do you have a merch guy?" I was like, "No." And he said, "Do you want one?" And I was like, "Are you offering to be the merch guy?" And he's like, "Yeah, man, I'll go and roll." And, he was kind of like showing us some of the ropes that we weren't aware of yet. And like, it was cool. And he ended up playing like some acoustic sets along the way and was slanging his poetry book. And it was cool. It was a fun time. It was definitely one of those times where like, you don't realize it in the moment, but you're like making memories you're gonna cherish later. It was it was like rapper summer camp. It was pretty cool.
And I now that we're talking about it, I remember that because that is when I met you and Chris was.
Oh yeah,
that was
on that tour,
just a few months after we had met both the E&A guys
in Eugene.
It was in Portland. Michael called Webb. And he said, "Hey, I'm coming through Portland
Kelly's
with some friends of
Olympian.
mine." Yeah, Kelly's.
Yeah.
And he's like, "I would love for you guys to meet him. If you can make it up here, I'll get you in." And so we went up there.
Oh, that's what's up.
And I remember him jumping out of the van and giving us all hugs and like, "These are my friends."
What I remember about that show was we were doing what ended up being Chemical Burns was called Waltz before that, when we first started working on that. And it was on the song Emancipator produced, because it was going to be for the project Emancipator and I did that's just kind of got shelved.
Yeah.
But at that time, we tried to play it a few times on tour, and every time EYEDEA would like kind of biff his lyrics and then just freestyle from it, but it was always a little trickier because it was like a 6/8 time signature, so it's a little trickier to freestyle on. Probably not for him, but for most human beings. But so I remember him you know, we never really got through the full song until we had that Portland show, and that was the only time that whole song was performed in its entirety. It was to a different beat.
I wish I would have got some video of that or something.
I don't think there is any, but there weren't a whole lot of people there, I'm sure you remember.
Yeah, there was probably
10, 15.
Maybe less than 20 people there.
Yeah, that was the only time that song happened live, and I don't think anybody even realized at the time, let alone me.
What it was going to be. And that, I remember that show being fun because I used to stand next to my friends at E&A shows and be like, you know, this little run, it's coming up, this line's coming up, and like, jumping up, down, like, oh my God, and singing along to this part, like, oh, you're going to get so hyped on E&A right now. And I remember he was doing that for you guys. And like during your parts, like we're standing next to each other, and he's like, "Oh, this part," and like, you got to listen to this line. And
man, like he was, like, he clearly just fucking loved music, and when something had his attention, he showed excitement for it, and like.
Well, and to be straight up, cool when I met him, he was not stoked on hip hop at that moment. He was like way into other things, and
that's natural,
8 months later or something, I see him at that show, and he is so like inspired by you and Chris. I remember just how different his demeanor was in that regard. That like he was way more charged up about making music again. Because of his excitement about your guys' music and that whole tour.
And we did the thing where we'd share music with each other of like just shit we listened to and such. And I remember like showing him like Lupe Fiasco, because he was like, remember him saying, I was like, you listen to Lupe? Like, this dude's the shit. And him and Chris were like, nah, man. And I remember he goes, that's clothes rap. So people rap about their clothes. And I was like, all right, let me play this and see what you think. And then I played him kind of the ones I thought he'd like, and then I remember he was like, holy fuck, this is like some of the illest shit I've ever heard. And I remember him calling me after that tour, and he was like, what were those Lupe songs? Yeah, man, I'm just like so hype on rapping right now. I want to do these projects. And I remember he just, maybe some in that tour helped light a fire. I don't know. Like, as a creator myself, I definitely like latch onto those moments where something actually like interests me. And I definitely understand and empathize with people who get resentful or tired of their box, whether it's hip hop or whatever their box is. Like I myself definitely have those times where I can't find the inspiration I want in that genre, and so I just look in other places.
For sure, yeah. I personally hate doing the same thing, you know, over and over, and that's why I try to have like as many different projects open at one time as I can, because you know.
Yeah, it affords you less boundaries, I guess. I don't know. I find inspiration outside of hip hop sometimes is more palpable and more valuable for me. Like, it comes out more in my work sometimes. But
well, thanks for having me, dude. Yeah, man. Where can people check out your music?
Go to Google and type in Sadistik and tell all your friends how bad it is if you don't like it.
EYEDEA.
All right, so here we are on location, the First Ave EYEDEA show, 5-year celebration. I've got my man Joey from Slop Musket.
What's up? Thanks
How are you doing?
Talking to me. I'm doing good, man. Doing great.
So, anything special planned for the show tonight?
Well, we do have a couple surprises mixed in there. We don't want to spill the beans on that.
Okay.
We definitely rehearsed a unique set for this particular performance.
Cool.
So got the butterflies going, but got the energy going. It's going to be we're excited to get this crowd pumped.
Awesome.
Definitely want to get the energy going in here.
So for anybody who doesn't know, you're a label mate of mine, Crush Kill.
Yes, sir.
Tell us about the band.
Well, basically, me and Patrick, who's the other MC in the band, we started out as just a rap group with a DJ. And my brother and Mark is the guitarist were in a different band. And we combined efforts about 2 years ago, and it's made it a full band, and there was no turning back since then. And since then we played South Bys, we've done Warped Tour, we did the Gathering at Juggalos this last year. So we've gotten blessed with some pretty good opportunities, and we've taken advantage of every single one we've been given. So it's
awesome.
It's been a great, path.
How did you cross paths with EYEDEA for the first time?
MySpace days, actually, back in the day, just as a fan.
I keep hearing that. Yeah.
MySpace days, and he was actually one of the, he'd respond. A lot of people always hit it up. You'd hit up your favorite rapper or whatever, and they never respond to anything, but he'd respond to me.
Yeah.
And I started talk to him about writing and stuff like that. And he's one of the people that said, you should record some stuff. Because at the time I was just writing for myself, rapping in the bathroom type stuff. Like no one cares what I have to say. You know what I mean? Like,
so you got a journal full of rhymes and know where to put them.
Exactly, or even know what to what I would do with them. And so he said just do it, and slowly but surely just knowing him, and then met people like Jason who was associated with him, and then he came out and just built. He's pretty much my whole hip hop family's been built because of my adoration for him and relationship with him. So I owe
That's
him
awesome.
Everything.
And you guys ended up doing some shows together?
Oh yeah, he actually when he started touring again after he was doing the whole Carbon Carousel, he did a tour with it was him and I think Sector 7G, Mike Shank, and they came through El Paso and Austin, so we got to open up for him. And it was back then it was just me, Joey Alpha was just way before Slop Musket.
Okay.
And so I got to play with him, and at that time I easily say we all look back at our old stuff, and I was like, that nowhere near should have been sharing the stage with someone of his caliber, but he would have never let you know that.
Dude, that's the thing though, is that he was able to see potential in people. Like I was the opposite of that. I was in a group then. I'm a solo artist now. Mm-hmm. He watched our sound check opening for them. We had never met, and I'm up there rapping dick jokes and just dumb shit, and he comes up to me at the merch table and starts asking me questions about the group and talking, and he wanted to buy the CD. I was like, dude, just take it, and then he walks over to Abilities. He's like, dude, I finally got something to listen to in the van that's not gonna suck. And like we couldn't believe that this guy actually gave a shit. And looking back, I'm thinking, like, I have footage from our set that night. I'm going, we were not that good.
Exactly. What would he see? What did he see?
Yeah, but both of us, we're in a different place in our lives, and we wouldn't have done half of these things, I'm sure, if it wasn't for that vote of confidence. So.
Exactly. That coastline that means more than a million,
Yeah. Like you can have people come up to you after a show and great set, or that was awesome, and that stuff's great, and we love to hear it,
sure.
and it'll make your day. But when somebody like that says it to you, you never forget it the rest of your life.
And everyone else in the world could tell me I sucked. And
you're like, you know what? That hurts, but you can't take this away from me.
You cannot take that away from me ever.
Yeah. Cool, man. Well, I'm looking forward to the show tonight. Thanks for sitting down with us for a minute. And
thanks for having me, bud. And I'm excited. I'm excited to see how this whole thing goes out. Just to be a part of it.
Got a lot of great people here tonight. And just before we go, how can people find your music?
slopmusket.com. You just type in Slop Musket. I promise you, there's nothing else on Google called Slop. All our stuff will be listed.
There's no other Sammy Warm Hands either. I think we're both good in that regard.
Exactly. So just type us in. Say what's up. We get back to everybody on Facebook and all that. Social media, we're on top of that, so we'd love to meet and talk to you guys and expand and connect. So
awesome. Thanks for hanging out with us.
All right, thanks a lot, buddy.
Peace.
EYEDEA.
Here we are on location, Minnesota, and we're talking to Orphanage member.
Yeah,
Illogic
member. Yeah.
How are you doing?
I'm doing good, man. Happy to be here. Yeah, happy to be here finally. The last 2 years I was out on the road, so I couldn't make it. But it was great that Kathy invited us out and, celebrate Mikey.
How far back do you guys go?
We go back to 98.
Damn.
Yeah.
So before he even had a record out.
Yeah, 98, 99. So, yeah.
And your first one dropped around that time, right?
Yeah, my first one dropped 99.
So how did you guys cross paths?
Dose One. Me, Dose One, and Yoni Wolf all went to college together, and I would just be in his apartment, and he introduced me to Atmosphere and A$AP Rock and just the music. And I think Scribble Jam, I think 98 or 99, Scribble Jam was the first time that we actually met. And me and EYEDEA were the young ones. Me, EYEDEA, and Max were the youngest out of everybody. So, we clicked right away just because we were the kids.
Awesome.
So neither one of us could drink yet.
Yes. Did they have those laws where you guys had to wait outside until you played and shit?
Not really. We got to sing backstage, but we couldn't really hang, you know. So, but it was good times. Definitely good times,
Tell me about those early days. I mean, you guys, you toured together too, right?
Yeah, EYEDEA actually took me on my first nationwide tours.
Oh wow!
The
How
first
many?
two.
Do you remember how long it was?
The first one was, I want to say, at least 2 months.
Nice.
So like, maybe like 40 or 50 shows, and it was great because he had faith in my skill, and since we were so tight, he had faith in me and took me out and started me on this journey, on this path. So.
And that was when you were promoting your first record, then?
Yeah. Well, promote my second record.
Okay.
It was 2002 when Got Lyrics came out that he took me on the Oliver Hart tour. That was the first tour that I went on. Yeah, me, him, and DJ Prism.
I didn't even know he did a solo tour.
Yeah, we did. And that one, that first tour was only like 2 weeks. And then I went out on the ENA tour with him. And that was the long one. That was the longest one that I had done to date. So,
rad.
Yeah, that was after Celestial came out. So that was 2004, 2005.
Cool. So I'm sure people are going to want me to bring it up. I joked about it, but like, how much material did you guys record together?
Well, as the Orphanage, we did probably about maybe 14 songs altogether. And unfortunately, me and Mikey never got to do any music together, like just me and him together. And we always planned on it. We always talked about it, but it never came to fruition. But he did introduce me to Christoph Crane, and like me and Christoph hit it off and have done a few things together.
Yeah, he was on your last record. You were on his.
Yep. So, but yeah, like, we did about 14 songs just in his basement, like.
Oh, so all that was done at ENA?
Yeah, all of that was done at ENA.
Cool.
Yeah, in the basement. All of us just sitting there.
That's
when the freestyle happened that weekend, the Orphanage freestyle.
Really?
That same weekend. That's when we.
So you guys just cranked all that material out in a short period of time then?
Yeah, about 3 or 4 days.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, because there was a big show here at First Ave with, I think, MF Doom, Aesop Rock, Atmosphere. It was a pretty big show, and we were all in town, and just like, hey, let's do some music, guys. Because the Orphanage idea started at Rocksteady, 99, or was it 99 or 2000? One of those years. We were all in New York, and I was staying at Aesop's house, and everybody was in town, and we were all at Aesop's house, and Slug came up with the Orphanage name.
Yeah.
And because we were all like kind of orphans, like we all had our own different little homes, but like we had no place that we really called our own yet. We were just starting Weightless. Rhymesayers was just starting, so everything was kind of like just starting. And that's how the Orphanage came about. And then we all talked about it, and maybe a year later or so is when we actually did the project. So
that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And you mentioned Ace.
Yeah.
That's actually how I first heard you. Was I had Labor Days on repeat for like years, man. Like I love that album. And do you guys still keep in touch? Do you have anything?
Yeah. Well, not any music or anything, but we're friends, so we still keep in touch. Like I'll hit him up here and there, and say what's up. And when he's in town, I'll come check the show out. But yeah, we all still keep in touch pretty good.
Rad. Well, there's going to be a lot of people here tonight.
Yeah, it's going to be
celebrate.
a lot, and I'm excited just to see everybody I haven't seen in a while. Me and Carnage toured last year together, so
that's last time I saw you.
Yeah, we haven't seen each other since then, so it's good to see him and to see Kathy, and just to see everybody and
for sure,
just celebrate Mikey's life and share stories and.
Is there any like memory you could think of that might be something that the average fan wouldn't know this side of him, or like?
I remember on the ENA tour. I remember when he was teaching himself how to play piano, and he had a keyboard that because him and Max had separate rooms, so every night he would load his keyboard in, and he was teaching himself to play piano, and we were like, "What are you doing?" Like we weren't there yet, and he was teaching himself how to play keys and chords, and playing the guitar and all that stuff, and just teaching himself, and just. It was cool to like watch him grow when all of the rest of us were kind of just wanting to be rappers. Like he was already looking beyond that and looking at something different. And, that's something I always admired about Mikey, that he was always thinking about what's next, and really reaching for it. So, you know, that was an amazing thing to see looking back on it. Like now I understand it. You know, then I didn't really understand it. But yeah.
Well, what's next for you then?
Working on a few things. Me and my homie Intellectual from California.
Yeah, he's a friend of mine.
Yeah, we're working on an album right now. Really some out of the box stuff. And other than that, you know, me and DJ Bombay, a cat out of Columbus, we're working on some things too. So I'm always working, you know, always working on new music.
Well, we'll look forward to it, man. Thanks for chatting with us for a few.
All right, thanks for having me.
How can people find your music?
IamIllogic.com is my website, and my Bandcamp is illogic.bandcamp. Or just Google me, Illogic.
Sounds good. Thanks, man.
All right.
EYEDEA.
We're here in Brady O'Rourke's car outside of
Smells brand new.
First Avenue, and I have Jeremy Ylvisaker.
How you doing, man?
Did I butcher the name?
Nope, that's exactly right.
Awesome. Cool. Well, so you were the guitarist of Carbon Carousel?
Yep. I did that. I played a little bit on By the Throat.
That's right, yeah.
I was in Face Candy for a while, but that was terrible with a guitar, so...
Okay.
So we kept it, those groups separate.
Did you play on the first record then?
No, I never. I just did some shows.
Okay.
And actually, Mikey had, when I first met him through JT, was starting to write songs under the name Modern Manic, and that stuff never really came out. It sort of became Carbon Carousel.
Okay.
So him trying to do songs was the reason I got there, and then us trying to improvise together was just not as cool as just bass and drums. I was way more nimble, you know.
Yeah,
So.
and a lot more freedom for the vocal.
But for everybody,
Yeah.
I wrecked it. And I know that. That's okay.
Well, so you mentioned playing on By the Throat. Now, some of those songs, didn't they kind of start as Carbon Carousel ideas and kind of morph?
I don't think so. I think those were all...
Okay.
Those were all a lot of Max's beats. And then Mikey actually played a lot of the guitar on there too. I played bass actually on some songs where he was the guitar player.
Okay. What bass did you play? Do you remember?
What do you mean? Which songs?
Which songs did you? I remember bass lines in Spin Cycle and Junk that were pretty interesting. And
I'm on both of those, I believe. Yep.
Okay. My band literally covered both of those songs when we did tribute sets back in the day.
Cool.
Actually, even before EYEDEA passed. We had a live band at the time with our group, The Illusionists, and we played a show with them, and they were so cool to us, and we're like, you know, it'd be awesome. Let's do like a kind of punk version of Junk. Mm-hmm. So we started playing it, and we put a little like half-ass recording of it on YouTube. And the next time I saw Mike, he was like, dude, that cover was awesome. You guys should keep doing that.
Yeah.
And so it became like part of our show, and I thought it was so cool. But
awesome.
Now here I am sitting with the guy who played it. So it's funny how these things come full circle.
Life is funny.
Especially with him, man. Like, we met, and I continue to meet so many people through that one show, you know, that I played with him and introduced me to all this other music and all these great people. So
yeah, same here.
It's cool to see everyone coming together here tonight.
For example, right now.
Yeah.
Me and you, baby.
What is your solo act like?
I got into playing like drone music and feedback and that kind of thing and looping or whatever a while back, and I did one of those types of things at the 1 year celebration of his life. Like that'd be 4 years ago now.
Was that here or at Cherokee?
It was at Cherokee
Okay.
Park. And that was actually based on a tune that I wrote that he covered, so I thought I would give that back to him.
Nice.
In an instrumental version. Tonight I'm going to do something like that, only maybe even less information. Just one chord. Now I'd had 3 chords.
Okay.
For like 10 minutes. This will be 1 chord for 15 minutes.
All right. I'll be interested to see what you can do with that.
Yeah, we'll see. I cannot wait to like force that through the PA here, though. You know, it's gonna be awesome.
Man, I'm trying to think of literally right now on tape. This is us meeting. So, how can people find your music?
I'm in a rock and roll group called Alpha Consumer that is actually expanding a little bit beyond being a rock and roll group. We've like scored films now, and like we we scored this modern dance piece that's been touring and like actually doing some of this kind of droney music and some like really repetitive counterpointy things in odd times and stuff, which is like not really what we do. But
Are you doing that for film or for your records?
That's for this dance piece. Hopefully we'll record that, and yeah, I've got some more songs in the holster too. But yeah, I've got a rock and roll group with some other folks called Grandma's Boyfriend. Got another one with my daughter called Guitar Party.
Oh yeah, and Mike was involved in that, right?
He was, yep. He played guitar at our very first show.
So how did that project come to be? Because at the time, she was very young, right? Singing.
She was 6, yeah. She was already pretty good at singing. But even it was a very strange task we assigned her. To just like, I made these kind of sprawling, My Bloody Valentine style, fuzzy guitar loops, and then just put headphones on her, and she would just stare at me and misbehave, and then I edited that a little bit, and that was our first record. Invited my friends to play.
That sounds pretty exciting, though. Keep it in the family.
It's thrilling. Yeah, I played with my dad when I was in like 6th grade.
Really?
Till now. Yeah, I still work on his music with him.
I don't have a lot of musical blood in my house, so
yeah. What do they do?
That's pretty exciting. Well, my little brother, he later learned to play the drums, just like over a summer, and then stopped doing it. And I was like, you could totally do this if you wanted to. I mean, he loves going to shows and coming out and meeting Carnage and Print and those guys when they come through my area. He loves it, but my stepdad, he likes to play guitar. All those guys weren't playing when I was learning. I had like a cousin who I kind of looked up to teach me a couple things. But yeah, there's a little bit, I guess, in my family. But
yeah, what did they do instead, though?
Oh, both my my stepdad and my brother, great athletes. They're great with their hands. Can build or fix anything. So I'm the one who's inept in that category. Right. So I'll always be calling on them to like, hey, I've got this thing I want to do. Can you help me bring it to life? Like when we built the studio in my house. I had them helping me every step of the way.
There you go.
So,
a village.
Yeah, definitely. I'm aware of my strengths, but especially of my weaknesses, where it's like, and it'd be best if I sit that one out.
That is itself a strength.
I think it probably is. Yeah. So before we wrap up, I just wanted to ask about Carbon Carousel and how that came to be, because I know that there was a little bit of backlash to that from EYEDEA, wasn't there? Because he started doing the whole "EYEDEA is dead." Wasn't that somewhat inspired from the reactions he got in switching genre to do?
Yeah, he encountered that the whole time though, because he everyone knew him as a freestyler. Then he made records, and they're like, "Oh, records, that's not it."
Yeah.
And then he made a solo record, and they're like, "Oh, where's abilities?" And then he started playing free jazz with his friends. They're like, "What are you doing?" So he was just always going somewhere new, And then he started writing riffs on a guitar, and then we'd work those out together. I'd add some parts, and the other dudes would add some parts. And
how long did that exist as a group?
It was actually a few years. We made kind of a lot of songs together.
There's two records, is that right?
Yeah, but there was like a thing in between, and then some other stuff he had started. But I think he was thinking of that as another Oliver Hart record.
Gotcha.
But he was starting to blend them more. He was like making these like broken sounding beats with like fuzzy guitars that are kind of being looped and stuff. And
there was a like an excerpt of that on the new.
Yeah, exactly.
Many Faces of Mikey.
Yep, I found a couple of things in some hard drives and just mixed them,
Yeah, and you did a couple remixes too, right?
I did, yeah.
Yeah, that stuff was great, man. That was kind of other than the
DVD one?
No, the Carbon Carousel record with the two covers. Which one's that?
The Sum of All Things.
Sum of All Things. Yeah. That's the one that I had, and that was basically my introduction to your music. and I hadn't heard much until this Many Faces of Mikey came out. So it was cool to hear the Oliver Hart remixes and stuff, and imagine kind of where you guys were headed at that time.
Yeah, it was just such a privilege to work on that. Be able to collaborate with him again.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thanks for sitting down with me for a minute in Brady's car.
My pleasure. It smells new.
I'll look forward to your set tonight.
Yeah, right on. You too, man.
Thanks, man.
EYEDEA.
Here we are back in Brady O'Rourke's car, and I've got my man Carnage the Executioner. How you doing?
He is here. How you doing?
Good, man. Good.
I'm good too.
We're hearing the remnants of Book of Bees subwoofers and Blueprint's trombone warm-ups right now.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be a good night.
I think it is too. We're starting off good. We're in the First Ave parking garage, and I don't think I've ever seen this many artist cars in this garage before.
Yeah, it's pretty nuts, man.
Yeah, and I've been to some big ass shows here, but nothing like this. This is crazy. Like, ain't nobody leaving,
yeah,
without having somebody else that have to move their car first. It's crazy.
Well, there's a lot of love in the room tonight, man.
Oh yeah.
You and EYEDEA, as many people were first introduced to you through the song "Coaches" on the Oliver Hart record.
Mm-hmm.
You guys go back a long time, man. Like, how did you first meet him?
I met him a couple times without even knowing I met him. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
you meet somebody and you don't understand that they are who they're going to become.
For sure.
So I the first time I met him, I think I saw him breakdancing at my college. He was on my college campus in one of our gym rooms breakdancing, and I came in and I was kind of giving him grief about having his young ass on a grown man's campus.
Yeah.
And he was like, well, I'll battle you. And I was like, oh, nah. Nah.
That would have been an epic first confrontation right there.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. So I figured if somebody's just going to come out like that with a smile on their face and be like, I'll battle you, I was probably going to lose. So I was like, nah, son, you go ahead and have this space. You know what I'm saying? And then probably about a year later, I saw him performing. And I hadn't put two and two together that it was him yet. He was performing at what became the first sound set.
Oh yeah.
And it was at like 4 or 5 in the morning. And
really?
He just him and Abilities got up and they were just going crazy. And I was like, who the hell is this? And then shortly after that, I was doing a show at First Ave, and he approached me and was like, yo, I know about you. I got this compilation that you were on, man, and you got this dope rhyme style. And he was like reciting my rhymes off of the song that I was on there. And I was
nice.
like, wow. So every time we, encountered each other, most of the time it was like fun. It was love,
Mutual admiration.
Yeah, exactly. And then we got a chance to rhyme together at a show at First Ave, at the J. Rue the Damages show. Him and I ran into each other in the crowd, and he was saying to his boy, yo, man, this is the one dude I was telling you about that got the ill flow.
Yeah.
And I was with one of my boys, and I was like, yo, this is the young dude I was telling you about with the ill flow. So then we just started rapping. We like blowing each other's heads off in the cypher, rapping together, and that was the beginning.
That was awesome. The rest is history.
The rest is history.
You guys made records and tours, and
Coaches became the thing, and we hung out a lot, and even outside of doing music, we had multiple conversations, and I think we were very instrumental in each other growing up in different ways, but he was probably more instrumental in my growth because he was so ahead of his time.
Yeah.
Talking to him was like talking to somebody who was my age and older, so it was pretty crazy. And I don't know if it was just because of how normally nice he was, or if he was just well read, or if he just had that really keen intuition of how to deal with anybody in the way they needed to be dealt with.
Yeah, I think there was something like that, because everybody I talked to, he had a way of bringing out the best in people that they didn't even see yet,
Right. And having it be one of those type of things where it's like it's tailor made for each person. Like I don't like I said it in another interview that somebody did of me, but I don't know if it was a one size fits all model that was just so, so developed in his own mind that he could use it on everybody, or if he was just that smart that he was able to connect with everybody in the way they needed to be connected with. Isn't that,
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does. I don't know, like from my interaction with him and interviewing other folks, I really feel like, and all the stories that people have told me, touring, just because of Crush Kill, people come up to us all the time,
right,
and share their interactions with him, and really I think he just listens,
mm-hmm.
like he genuinely wants to get to know people,
right,
that he meets, and like that's rare. Normally it's just like a, hey, what's up, nice show, big fan, see you later,
Yeah, he'll ask you like, how are you doing?
Yeah.
And most people be like, all right, and he'd be like, but no, how are you really doing though?
Yeah.
Like, is everything really all right? Like, if he asked you how you were doing, he really wanted to know. It wasn't that general, that cookie cutter way of asking people how they're doing.
Yeah, it's not superficial.
It's not superficial. He just really seems like he wants to know. And that's a beautiful thing, man. You don't meet very many people like that. And you know what else is funny? I just noticed, I was listening to you talk, and I noticed you were referring to him in the present tense, like I do. Like you were saying, he just really wants to, and that's exactly how I talk about him. It's crazy. It's like I don't know anybody else who speaks of people who have passed away in the present tense. I've listened to a few people. I know, because it's not something you try to do. It's just, I don't know. Like I said, I've never met anybody who does that for anybody else. Like, I know a lot of people who have died in their lives, and they don't refer to them in present tense. For sure. When they talk about them. So, like, that's another rarity, man. I think he does that.
I think for me, like, because my introduction to him was through the Blaze battle, and seeing the records come out and seeing the shows like over and over before I ever got to meet him. And so, like, these people are like timeless figures in our life when when they're part of our record collection, and the soundtrack of moments of growing up and stuff like that. And so the short time I knew him versus the long time that I listened to him, I don't know, I just feel like he's he's forever be a part of my life, and even stuff like this, just bringing us all back together.
Right.
So,
there's not too many people who can bring this many people together this many times.
Yeah.
How many times? I've seen you more times in the past two years than I've seen you in the whole time I've known you, and I've known you for some time.
Yeah, we've known each other for like at least 5 years, and it's been
it's been the last 3 years we've been bumping into each other quite a bit.
Yep.
And that, I don't think there's there should be no surprise to that.
Yeah, it all started there, man. So many friends made so many lasting relationships,
Right.
And shout out to Kathy for keeping this going, man. She's done an incredible job with events like this, and between this and South by and the park, and it's just great that she's keeping that spirit of generosity alive.
It's a beautiful thing. There's not very many people you can do that with and for.
Yeah.
But him being who he was, it's easily able to find reasons to celebrate a dude like that.
For sure. Well, thanks for taking some time and talking with us, and I'll let you get back to the show. You'll be hosting the whole night, right?
Yes, I will.
Cool, man.
I'm trying to squeeze some of my own shit in there.
Good. Oh, I should ask. I keep forgetting to do this, but how can fans find your music?
My website is www.carnagetheexecutioner.com, and from there you can find all my other social media.
Gotcha.
Visit my web store. Peace
Buy
out.
the ultimatum.
Buy it all. Peace.
EYEDEA.
We're back in Brady's car.
Back in the lab.
And I've got my man Blueprint.
Printnificence.
How you feeling?
Feel great, man. I'm kind of hot, but I'm good. I got on my long johns.
Yeah?
Yeah, it was cold earlier.
I regretted not wearing them yesterday, but then today I figured it'd be too much for the show.
Yeah, I have to take them off before I wrap.
All right, so you got anything special up the sleeve for tonight's festivities?
No, man. I don't think it. This is one of those shows where you don't want to take a lot of risk.
Yeah?
Yeah, I kind of looked at it like it's a celebration. Like, it's not really about us.
For sure.
So like we're here, and we're on stage individually, but it's so not about us that like I kind of feel like if anything, I should just be in a pocket and play my role and just do a solid set and just make sure the people who came to see the show and have a good time
Just keep the vibe up and
yeah, man. Yeah, just play my role.
I was feeling a little self-conscious because I got invited to come out, and I'm not a freestyle kind of guy, and so that was intimidating. And I thought, you know what, really though, it isn't about me. So I figured I'll come out, in the spirit that he always did, which was, just have fun. I mean, you hear some of the you guys did all kinds of freestyle and stuff together, and sometimes you're trying to one up each other, and sometimes it's just to get out there and have fun.
Yeah, I agree, man. And it's weird. There's certain shows where it is kind of about you and getting your thing across. And sometimes it's like it's cool to have these shows as reminders that it's not always about you, even though the art is yours. It belongs to everybody once you kind of put that shit out there.
For sure, yeah. So you guys, I mean, when did you and Mike first link up?
I think I met him in 99, maybe? 99? It was right when we still had tapes when I met him.
All right.
Yeah. We had the Greenhouse tapes and the Illogic tape. And I met them through Dibs. They were starting a tour with Overcast. Back then it was Mikey, Max, and Sean. That was basically how Atmosphere toured. Max was the DJ. Mikey was Slug's hype man. Yeah. And he would perform, routines with Sean, and then he'd do like maybe one solo song during that time. And so their first time through Columbus, they came to Cincinnati, and Mr. Dibs booked them. And so Dibs booked them in Cincinnati, and at that time, Greenhouse and Illogic, we were real active in Cincinnati and Columbus. So they asked us to open up. So we opened up for them then, met Sean and Mikey and Max, and we were cool. And then a month later, they got booked to play in Columbus.
Oh, nice.
And then the promoters there asked us to play with them in Columbus. So we played with them in Columbus. Then we became really cool. So then another month later, they had a show in Cleveland. And then Sean hit me up like, hey, man, y'all want to play with us in Cleveland?
All right.
We're going to be back in Ohio again.
Awesome.
We said, cool. Where's that? Oh, Euclid Tavern. So we drove up there. It was like a Monday night or something. Played with them at the Euclid Tavern. Kicked it, hung out with them. And then, at that point, we all started getting cool because we were already playing a lot of Ohio markets. We were just now starting to get outside and like the Louisvilles, Pennsylvania, crossing the border with our music. But this is when we were really, really, really at the beginning. This is 98, 99.
Yeah.
And they were doing it too. So it wasn't a lot of people who were touring, playing out of state. And so we kind of naturally clicked because what Rhymesayers is to Minneapolis at that time, Weightless was to Columbus, Cincinnati.
Cool.
And
so it's kind of you guys kind of strengthen each other.
Exactly. And we all became cool. And, by then, we started playing. I think we had a show in Chicago with Adam's Family, and they heard about it, and then they booked us to come from Chicago to Minneapolis to play Brother Ali's Rites of Passage tape release.
All right.
And that was, we stayed at Max's house, and it was that was like, but we were all, by then we were boys, and then that summer was Scribble Jam. So this whole period,
so just one after another.
Yeah, one after another, and then we played on the Scribble Jam. And so like all this time, so that's kind of how that whole thing came about.
That's cool. It's so organic, man. You guys just doing the same thing in different areas and start intersecting and more. And then when did you guys start touring together?
The first time me and Mikey actually toured together was 2004.
Oh, okay.
That was the Plague on Wheels tour when they came out with the E&A record. That was me, them, and Gray Skull. But like I had toured with, I had done spot dates with Mikey and Atmosphere because I started touring with Atmosphere in 2002. And, Mikey would be on some of those shows doing like just spot dates, but he would be on the whole tour.
Yeah.
So certain markets, they fly him out to open up but we'd be there the whole time. So we were cool then. But me and Mikey we always had like the freestyling thing, battling thing. That was like our thing, Because like every crew back then, you had to have somebody who could freestyle or battle.
Yeah.
So I was at my crew. So like no one would fuck with us if they didn't want to battle me.
Yeah.
And no one would fuck with Rhymesayers if they didn't want to battle Mikey. And we kind of met and we were just like, oh shit, he's just like me, but in another city.
That's awesome.
And we just would always just try to look for battles and freestyle, and that was just our thing,
I think it was in your latest book, What a Night, that you were telling a story about going to New York City together, and you guys would just roll up on anybody on the cypher on a corner and just cut in and try to smoke everybody.
Yep, that's the shit we would do. We would do that, like, because, you know, in '99, all of this happened, I think, the summer before he won the Scribble and the Blaze battle.
Yeah.
Because that was all successive. Once he won those, he couldn't sneak into any ciphers anymore.
Everybody knew about him.
Right? Before then, we were just destroying people everywhere because they didn't know who the fuck we were. And, you know, you go to New York City and you're at Rock Steady and you're battling a bunch of dudes who are from New York. They're not going to think that anybody from Minnesota or anybody from Columbus will just crush them. And we were just crushing them fools in their backyard.
And those scenes weren't really on the map yet in terms of indie rap. So you're blindsiding these guys.
Yeah, it was unfair. They didn't know.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. I really just wanted to ask about those old days, and it's cool seeing everybody come from different points in their life who've crossed paths with them, and all coming back together tonight for the show. And it makes me feel good, man, that he's still bringing us together. So.
Oh yeah, it's good to see. And this is my first time actually coming to one of these. It's like my schedule. I have scheduling conflicts the first few years of it, you know. And this one is just like, yes. Let me know I'm there. You know?
Awesome, man. Well, I'm so glad you're here, and thanks for taking the time to chat with us. And I know a lot of people who listen to me already know your music, but if they're new to you, how can they find Blueprint?
Printmatic.net is the easiest. PRINTMATIC.net. That's probably the easiest. On Twitter, I'm Printmatic. On Instagram, I'm Blueprintmatic.
And you've got your own podcast too.
Yeah, but we're like on a hiatus right now, man. Super duty tough work, because Groove is just unavailable, his work schedule and all this stuff. So,
well, if they want to catch up, are you on iTunes?
We're not on iTunes yet. iTunes fronted on us. We're everywhere but iTunes.
Okay.
I don't know why they didn't accept us. Maybe we were just too raw.
Well, we'll talk about that.
The most controversial podcast in the history.
We'll tell you about that, so you guys don't get blackballed forever. Because they let me in. If they'll let me in, they'll let you in.
I don't know why they didn't let me in. I don't know. Maybe something was wrong. I was gonna resubmit, and then I didn't have time. Then we didn't record some episodes, and I was like, oh well, I'll get it later.
All right. Well, look out for Super Duty Tough Work in the future.
Yeah,
It'll
we got like
back.
6 or 7 episodes. They're classics. Funny stuff. Real funny.
Cool. All right, well, thanks again, man, and I'm looking forward to the set tonight.
Word, thank you.
EYEDEA.
So we're back here with the 5-year anniversary birthday celebration for EYEDEA, and sitting here with, man, I just met DJ Willie Luss. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good.
So you were one of the only collaborators on the Oliver Hart record, is that right?
That is correct.
How did that project come to be, or your involvement with that?
Well, Mikey wanted to make a solo record. He just bought a sampler, the Ensoniq EPS 1600, and he was making beats and wanted to just kind of see his vision for a song through from start to finish, and to kind of separate it from the idea and ability shit. He asked me to do the cuts on it, so that's kind of how that happened.
Cool, man. When did you guys meet?
1998. I met him when he was a junior in high school.
And you were?
I was friends with Max, DJ Abilities, so met him through that. And first time I ever met him was Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And we're talking about you should shave your face, going with the grain or against the grain, like childish shit. Like, you know, we're all young kids, and kind of just clicked from there. Yeah.
Awesome. Did you guys ever tour together on that or anything like that?
Yeah, we toured that record with Prince Paul and AC Alone.
Nice.
And it was a fun time.
How was that? How far did you go?
Let's see. We started in Baltimore and then went all the way to Reno, Nevada.
Nice.
That's where we finished. That was where we finished the tour.
What do you remember from those drives? a young idea?
No, he spent his whole time picking Prince Paul's brain.
Really?
Yep, that is what he did on that tour. And driving me nuts at every sound check.
How so? Perfectionist?
Perfectionist is an understatement.
That's where Carnage must get it from.
Yeah, he would tell the sound man, "Oh, you need to take the frequency of 335 down 2 notches, and then put the 235." All this stuff where I'm just like, Mike, I'm hungry. Like, you don't need me to stand here behind you while you're yelling at the sound man about frequencies. Just let me go eat. And he never let me would.
Cool, man. Well, thanks for sitting down with us after the show. I know everybody's worn out, but I appreciate your time. Where can people find your music today?
DJ for a group called The Unknown Prophets, so unknownprophets.com.
All right. Well, I appreciate you talking with me. Thank you, man.
Thank you.
EYEDEA.
All right. I had to loan my laptop so they could record the show tonight, but so our mics are put away. If you notice a change in sound quality, folks, but this is the Take 92 podcast, Crush Kill episode, and I'm sitting here with my man Murs.
Hey,
how you doing?
All right, brother.
I'm really excited about everybody being here tonight, and you had a tribute to Mike on your new album.
Yeah, man.
Tell us about how that came to be.
My producer, his name is Belief. He did he's produced for Cannibal Oxy as well as most recently he co-produced Chandelier for Sia and Kelly Clarkson, and he's doing a lot of pop stuff. But we grew up together. You know, when I did this new record, Have a Nice Life, my goal was to try to do something more mainstream, but with someone else familiar that's in the mainstream, but that grew up with me, that gets real hip hop. And he's done shit with Cannibal Ox and C. Ray's Walls and Murs, and Punchlines and Wordsworth. So he gets real hip hop, but he also gets pop music, a way to make something popular, but of substance. And we'll know, he's known me since we were 14 years old. We'll know when I'm stepping out of when I'm trying too hard or when I'm not trying hard enough. Like, he knows me.
So he's actually producing for you. He's not just giving you beats. Like,
yeah, no,
you guys
we
are
sit
making it together.
Yeah, we've been making music together since we were kids, and literally making music together. So to get a chance to work with him, and for him, it was a good chance to catch up with an old friend and ground him, because he's been doing sessions with Adele and whoever else.
Nice.
So, that's how it started. And he, I told him I trust him. And even with Ninth Wonder, I've always been someone that trusts real producers. If you hear me on this beat because you hear me on this beat, cool. If you hear a subject matter and you hear me on this beat, even better. You know what I mean? If you have a rhyme pattern, even better. Like, I love direction. I love people who produce. And so he gave me this beat, and he's like, you got to do it to this beat. And I was like, this is so difficult. Like, I think it's like a 3/4 rhyme scheme. It's like a da-da-da-da-da-da-da. I don't do that shit. I'm a simple guy. I like
You're a storyteller.
Yeah. I don't like all this fancy shit. And he's like, you on this beat is going to work. You have to do it. And it was so hard, and I hated the beat. And I was on tour one morning, and then and I've said this in a few interviews, but as much as I've been through as far as being from the inner city and losing friends early and losing my father, losing my stepfather, dealt with death a lot more than most people I know. Yeah. And Mikey is still one of the ones, if not the one, that hits me the hardest in at random times. And definitely when I'm on tour, because that's where we became the most closest, where anybody in this business becomes the most close.
Yeah, it's instant kinship because you spend 24/7 together.
You kind of gotta go for it. So so then I was up having one of probably the worst run of my career, the worst tour I've ever been on. So I wanted to kind of do something positive and create some music, but then the only beat I had left to write to was this fucking beat I hate. And I was like, you know what I hate more than anything? I hate that Mikey's not here. Yeah. And I miss to wake up some mornings and I miss Mikey, because like it's just, I feel it in my whole being, like fuck. It's like a huge fuck. And that's how I felt having to write this song. I felt like fuck, I gotta do this. Like I gotta come up with something. I was like, I'm gonna take that feeling and that. And so we got to the end of our recording session, and the producer was like, so did you ever do that one? I was like, yeah, I wrote some shit, but it's just really just some heartfelt shit, man. It's really not a fucking song. It's just it's just feelings. It's not good. And he was like, do it. And I was like, all right. And I did it. And he was like, that's a good song. And I was like, all right. And then in the midst of doing that, I got a call on my other friend that just passed away. So it was like a perfect, horrible time. So I was like, okay, it's meant to be. Let's put it out.
You know, I was just talking to a friend about that. 'Cause I've been a musician for my whole life. And sometimes when you write something that is that personal, you almost doubt yourself. Like, I don't know, this is anything anyone's going to want to hear. But then you show it to somebody. And almost every time, like the time you go that far within yourself, they're going to gain so much more out of it, you know, encourage you to do more of that stuff. So I'm glad that he reaffirmed that because, you know, it turned out to be a single and everybody loved it. And
I think it's, you know, definitely was it was, I think I'm going to say it was a good thing. I'm not going to say it was I feel kind of awkward because I don't like the Facebook posting. I don't like the fucking hashtagging my friend. Like I don't like to do it. I appreciate that other people do it. I don't like to do it. Just there's like an impersonal vibe to it, man. And so I was kind of hesitant to put it out. But then also like you get a lot of shit from people. You know, like me signing to Strange Music and blah blah. Like I'm not friends with people, and I'm like, this isn't sports, man. Like this isn't like I can be down with Rhymesayers and Strange Music and Living Legends because we're all artists, we're humans. Like you have friends that are in different families and you have families that have taken you in like you're part of their family. You're still part of your family, but it doesn't mean you love the Johnsons down the street any less. You know, so it's just like, so it's kind of my affirmation. Like, I'm on Strange Music, but like I'm still me. You know, and so that when they said they wanted to release it, I was kind of hesitant because I don't like putting that type of stuff out there. Like I'm profiting off of missing my friend or trying to capitalize off of that. But at the same time, I think it's a good thing to show unity, and I want him never to be forgotten. And, you know,
and the fans appreciate that because, like every time that somebody else makes a statement like that, you know, we're getting one little extra piece of him that we didn't have, you know, and that's why I'm talking to people about him. You know, it's like we're not going to get the chance to talk to him after a show again or something like that, and so his stories are what's going to make him live on, you know. So I should ask. So obviously you guys are both on Rhymesayers and stuff, but how did you actually first cross paths?
Zeroing in on it, being older, you know. I would say this is a hard thing to do, but I think that if I could tell kids anything, is do enough cool shit that you forget about all the cool shit you've done. Stops you from being an arrogant asshole and bragging about it. When you're laying at your house and you forget shit and shit comes back to you, it's fun, and sometimes you don't remember. And I don't honestly remember, but I think it was here. It was 1998, and we were opening for Hieroglyphics, and we go from city to city. And in my town, from the West Coast, but we were living in the Bay Area, and if you came to the Bay Area, you would see the Living Legends out front, various members of us selling cassette tapes. And so when I would go to these cities and I see people doing what we do, I'm like, oh, okay, we got some homeboys. Like, I would trade them tapes and, you know, give them a shout out on stage. Like, okay, such and such is in the house. And usually it'd be like, you know, but like in our city, if you said Living Legends or Mystic Journeyman or Grouch or Murs on stage, most times you get a, like, you know.
People know.
People know, you know, because and so I came here and I got Sluggy gave me Overcast and I looked at it. And so I got on stage, I was like, oh, shout out to Atmosphere Overcast. Wow! And I was like, oh shit, these are my people. So then me and Slug started talking that night some more, and apparently that night, I think it was that night, Mikey came up to me and was like, hey Murs, and I was like, yeah. And he was like, I was 15. And I was like, okay. So the next time I met him, he's like, yo, and the first time I met you, you were a real dick to me. I was like, what? It was like maybe months later, a year later at Max. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, yeah, I told you I was 15. He's like, well, honestly, I said some random shit to you. But what I meant to say, I was so excited, but what I meant to say was, I know what it feels like to be the youngest person in your crew, because I was the youngest person in Living Legends. Oh, yeah. And I had been recording, and like the song everybody got to know from me first was a song called Sunspray with me, Eli, and Scarab from a group called 3MG. We weren't even 3MG then, we were Sons of Meshach. And I was 15 years old and people loved that song. So, you know, Mikey knew what it felt like he was trying to connect with me on that level, but he didn't say the right thing.
He didn't say it, you didn't get it.
And I was in the cold, and I'm in Minneapolis for the first time, and I drunk probably, I don't know. So I was like, he was like, you're a dick. And I was like, well, fuck you. He said, you know, said some unintelligible, meaningless shit to me. I don't know how am I supposed to connect.
Yeah.
Hey, I was 15. Of course you were, motherfucker. Like, what does that mean?
That's funny.
That was my first time meeting Mikey.
And you guys, did you guys do tours together and stuff? Like,
yeah, we did the Creative Differences tour together.
That's EYEDEA and Legends? Or?
Yeah, EYEDEA and Legends.
Nice. When was that?
2000, had to be 2002, 2001.
Yeah.
Creative Differences tour, they were opening for us. Mikey wasn't, I don't think Mikey was drinking or doing anything at that point. I think Max had just started to drink Heineken, like have a Heineken at sound check type shit. They were like really green.
Yeah.
And we were really, really party animals. So I think we kind of welcomed them into the road life.
Yeah.
In that way, because Rhymesayers tours a very different way than most rappers or musicians travel. You know, they're relatively calm. By comparison,
tame.
Yeah, nobody's getting head in the front room while everybody's passing around a blunt, shoots dice.
Yeah.
And that was Living Legends.
So that's cool. You guys get to kind of show them the ropes a little bit. You guys have been out a little bit more.
Yeah, we were definitely, and you know, tour bus. I think it was their first tour bus tour, and you know, during the time we were both promoting our albums. The EYEDEA album had come out, and I think it was 316 had just come out.
Nice.
No, Into the Beginning had just come out. I think I don't remember which one it was, and.
Like you said, too many cool things.
Yeah. But we were like, they were the only people that would get up and do college radio with me. Because I was on Def Jux, they were on Rhymesayers.
Yeah.
So like Mikey and me were every day, like, you know. I tell all the same stories all the time, but it was like, he was like, yeah. When we go to a restaurant, he'd always be like, oh, hi, I'm Michael. I'm really famous. You're really glad to meet me right now. Killed me every time. Killed the waitress. Like, he's just a funny dude.
Which is great because he's like, all humility.
Yeah,
but
exactly. So to hear him say, like, what are you saying?
Awesome, man. Well, obviously, I assume everybody listening is going to know you and know how to find your music, but your new album is out now, right?
Yeah, Have a Nice Life is out now.
Have a Nice Life on Strange Music. So
yes.
Thanks for hanging out with me. I appreciate that,
No worries,
man.
man.
It's a pleasure to meet you.
No worries. Thanks for talking to me.
Yeah.
EYEDEA. We're here again in Brady's car, and I'm sitting with a man I've collaborated with, but we've never met before.
Never met before, yeah.
Right now.
Well, it's good to meet you, man.
Booker B. How you doing?
Good. I'm doing fantastic.
Yeah. How you feeling the love from the crowd tonight?
Man, I am just not surprised that it's a sold-out crowd tonight at First Avenue. You know, given the love for EYEDEA, not just locally, but nationally. Worldwide.
Yeah, there's people here from everywhere.
Absolutely. I got a homie in town from Hawaii, and I'm sure there are many people in town from even further than that.
Yeah, for sure. Now, you are the artist not only on the new Many Faces of Mikey, but also the artist, and when I say that, I mean the cover art for the Many Faces of Oliver Hart.
Yeah.
How did that come to be?
Yeah, absolutely original Oliver Hart shit. I was invited out of town to Screw Jam with both Mikey and Max back in the day. A couple times we drove out to Screw Jam.
Yeah.
And it was actually just coming back from, God, I want to say, well, it was definitely in the 90s, but driving back in the van, Mikey was looking through my sketchbook and seeing all these faces, and he had the own concept in his head about the many faces of Oliver Hart.
Cool.
You know. And
well, as we've heard now, some of those songs originated really early on, so
yes,
you must have been toying with that for a while.
Yeah. Having seen the artwork, I think it just resonated in you know, kind of making sense in connection with that concept of the many faces, because for many years I've done faces and faces and faces in my own artwork.
Yeah.
When I was younger, I did circles and circles and circles, and that developed into faces and faces and faces. Made sense to Mikey back in the day to do the cover. So he basically approached me in the van. He saw the artwork in the van and was like, this shit is dope. Let's do, collaborate. We can break you off with some dough, or we can do a collaboration if you want to.
Yeah.
So, my first motivation is just to collaborate with people. So
yeah.
So that's kind of where the collaboration for quality programming on my record Bass Mentality came from.
And you've got the remix version of it too on the new record.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, it's good stuff. That was actually what reminded me of your stuff and made me want to reach out, because I heard that remix and thought, oh shit, yeah. Like, I was like, if he's still working with Kathy and Brady, I was like, I should reach out to him,
Very cool.
If anybody is. You're listening to my show, so you probably heard my Vacant Eyes record. So one of the remixes on the new one is the one for, what do we call it? Dan Samo. That one was produced by Book of B. Now, that was one of the ones that surprised me when I got back, because, it's very West Coast, was that your first inclination when you heard the track? Because it's kind of a mellow track, the original version, beat-wise.
Yeah, it's funky. That's what gravitated me, or kind of sent me in the direction of that tune, was the funkiness.
Yeah.
So as I'm kind of reapproaching the tune, I'm trying to figure out what to do with this tune, and I love the funkiness, but I also love the old school shit.
Yeah.
So I decided to go with maybe a little bit more of a drum driven shit with the keys and the bass.
It's very minimalist too, a lot of space.
And that's some of just the shit that I love.
Yeah.
It has that amount of space to it. So it was fun to work on.
Yeah, well, thanks for doing it, man. It was cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where can people find your music online?
I have just recently started building the website for myself. So that's bookab.net.
Okay.
BOOKAB.net. And it has a collection of my shit. I do paintings. I do some screen prints. And I also do some music.
Yeah.
So to have all of those elements in one place for people to check out.
Cool. And you've contributed a lot of art to Crush Kill and that's awesome.
It's been just honor really to work on the idea shit. And I appreciate Crush Kill for giving me that opportunity to do the Many Faces of Mikey.
Yeah, well, thanks for keeping his name alive, man.
Well, no, I'm not responsible for that. But
every single person in this room tonight is contributing to that.
Dope,
so
dope.
That's
I'm
what I mean by that.
I'm happy to contribute to that.
So,
absolutely.
Yeah, awesome. Cool, man. Well, thanks for sitting down with us, and let's go check out the rest of the show.
Yeah.
EYEDEA.
I just ran into my man Dem Atlas. How you doing, man?
I'm doing so good. Tonight's been really magical, watching everybody perform and show love to Mikey and Idea. So I'm doing good.
Good, man.
Really
good. It's nice to see so many Rhymesayers faces in the house tonight. And I wanted to ask you, because you grew up here, right?
Yeah.
And you were one of the later additions to Rhymesayers.
Yeah.
So did you get to know Michael when he was alive, or was he an influence of yours? Or?
He influenced me post-life,
Yeah.
I heard about him a lot when I was in high school still, and his music was I was like, this is a really cool cat, but I didn't really understand it at the time. And it wasn't until after high school, when I was going through sort of a identity crisis. Who am I? What's this? What am I doing?
Yeah.
That's when I really took hold of his music, especially Firstborn.
Yeah. Do you remember what it was like? Do you remember a song that kind of hooked you in, or a performance that you saw that, I fucking get this now?
It was Liquid Sovereignty off of Firstborn.
Yeah.
Music off of Firstborn. Walking.
Yeah.
so many songs. It's like I through his music, it was so powerful because I felt like I knew him, personally.
Yeah.
But I never met him before. But his music is so intimate and deep that you feel like you're having a conversation with a long lost friend, and that's what his music and his legacy and Michael means to me.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've never met him. I never met him. I wish I had, because I feel like we would have talked till the day breaks. But I'm just here.
Yeah.
He's a really special person. And it's like it almost feels like he's alive still. It almost feels like he's here in this room.
I mean, he's still bringing all of us together.
It's deep, man. It goes deep.
I was talking to Carnage earlier, and he said that the people talk about him in the present tense. Like, oh, well, he is this and he does that and he means this to us, and he said that that's the kind of legacy he's left behind, is that people still feel so connected. I mean, you can hear the crowd tonight after 5 years. It's still strong. What do you see like as a Rhymesayers artist traveling the country? Do people talk to you about EYEDEA?
All the time. All the time.
I love that. Like
all the time. I'll be on stage. And I do this bit in my set where I'm like, have you all heard of Rhymesayers? Especially out in Europe, opening for Atmosphere, I make a point to do that and shout out, A$AP Rock, Prof, Dilated Peoples, Brother Ali, Greaves, and then cats will scream out in Europe, overseas, they'll scream out, EYEDEA!
Awesome.
EYEDEA. And I'm like, and then I cap it off with EYEDEA and abilities.
Yeah.
And so all the time.
Good, man. That's great. I love that.
While I'm holding that stage, while I'm holding that stage in that space, and I have that opportunity for people to scream out these names.
Yeah.
Always EYEDEA, and that's really powerful to me.
Yeah, it's. I mean, he's endured and will continue to endure, and I'm glad that you have that respect of carrying it on too, being part of the the Rhymesayers collective, or that's awesome for the for the fans, because they.
And I don't take it lightly. I hold this whole opportunity. This is a major blessing, and there's a reason, and I'm just trying to do what I can do.
Cool, man. Well, thanks for taking a minute to share your story. And how can people find your music if they're listening and they haven't heard Dem Atlas before?
I don't know. You can find it on SoundCloud, iTunes, Bandcamp.
Okay, cool. Mm-hmm. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. EYEDEA. Here we are again at the 5-year celebration, Take 92 podcast, Sammy Warm Hands, and I'm hanging out with Kevin Beacham from Fifth Element. How you doing, man?
Doing great, man.
So tell the people your origin with the Rhymesayers crew. How did you come into the fold?
Well, back in the mid-'90s, I did a radio show out in Chicago called Time Travel. And Time Travel, when I got my hands on some Rhymesayers music, started playing on the show. They got a great response. And so from that, started getting them opportunities to come to Chicago and play shows. And so then from there, we started they would bring groups from Chicago up to Minneapolis to play shows, and I'd bring those groups out here. So we're just swapping shows.
Awesome.
And that's just how I pretty much met everyone for the Rhymesayers, swapping shows. And one thing that always struck me about Rhymesayers is how, they would sometimes drive to Chicago just to freestyle. They would come to my radio show, rap on the air, and drive right back home.
Wow.
Just come to rap. And that's, that's how I met a lot of the crew from there, from Scribble Jam, which is, how I met Mikey, I think, once before that, but really seeing him at Scribble Jam is how me and Mikey really first connected.
Were you freestyling there too, or were you doing your radio show? Or?
I was the organizer.
Oh, okay.
I was the organizer in the head battle. I was the head organizer for the event and the head judge for the event too.
Well, I didn't even know. So you're schooling me.
Yes, I was like putting all that stuff together for the battles and picking the judges, picking the MCs, all that. That was
awesome.
That was all me. And so obviously Mikey was in the battle, won the battle, and just from that, it's how a lot of times how I connected with Mikey early on.
Awesome. So later on, you ended up running the Fifth Element store, right?
Yeah. I actually moved here to work for Rhymestairs, which I still work for Rhymestairs, but also run the store. But I'm one of the label managers for Rhymestairs, and I moved here in 2002, which is around the same time that Mikey was putting out All of a Heart.
Yeah.
And so I don't even know exactly how it connected, but in one of those. Oh, you know what it was? Before I moved here, I came here to visit. I came here to go to a Sage Francis show. And I don't think I knew this before I came, but I came for that show, and I spent some time. I stayed at Mikey's house. And when that was the same time, they were recording a project called The Art Orphanage.
Yeah.
So,
you were there for that?
Yeah, I was there. I was like, I had the only photos from that day.
Oh yeah, I've seen those. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, they were writing, recording, all that, and I was hanging out there, and so from that, me and Mikey just really connected.
Yeah.
And so when I moved here, that I think following year, 2 years later, when I first moved here, he was like I didn't really hang out with anyone except for Mikey.
Yeah.
So and that was when he was releasing All of a Heart. And so, he was doing like little shows and different college shows in Madison. And so we would, I would go with him on the road. I was like because I'm not sure what Billy's was at. He was doing like his own project at the time. So for All of a Heart, I would DJ for Mikey's sets.
Oh, cool.
So we would do
what, was that the one that Illogic was on? Because I was talking to him about, I thought he said he did one of the solo tours. Earlier.
Oh, that was a difference. This was just like small spot dates.
Okay.
We would go do a college and come back the next day. We go to Madison. This was not a tour. We did like around here. We do like go to Hamlin University. We would do all these little small dates.
Yeah.
And it was really. He didn't need me to DJ. We did it so we could hang out.
Yeah.
That was the main thing. We would go out there, we hang out, we have fun, we'd freestyle after the show, we'd go to people's houses and party with them, and we just had a great time. And that was like my first couple of years living here, and me and Mikey just kicked it like that all the time.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Awesome. It's great to see like so many people from all different parts of the country and who met him at all different times in his life all coming together tonight and celebrating. So, thanks for sharing your story, man, and I look forward to sharing the stage with you in a few minutes. So.
Cool, man. Sounds great, man. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
EYEDEA. And here we are, the day after. I'm sitting here with Crush Kill label manager, Brady O'Rourke. We didn't get a lot of sleep last night.
No.
How are you doing, man?
Pretty good for getting in at 5 a.m., but, it was an awesome night, so can't really complain.
Yes. More shit happened yesterday than there's time for in a single day.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, man. I'm kind of speechless after that show, to be honest. I think that's one of the... I've seen a lot of shows, and that's one of the craziest nights of my life, I guarantee.
Yeah, you just get that many people, that many performers of that level, doing short sets, and then you have 1,500 people in the crowd. It's pretty hard for it to go wrong.
Yeah, and the energy was so high and so positive. Like, I wasn't sure if it was going to be, a kind of celebration or a mourning or a little bit of both, but like for the most part, man, everybody was just pure joy,
Yeah, and it was crazy because it was actually more so than kind of like what the mood was going to be like. I was more concerned about it being on a Monday, and just not people being not as into it because they had to be to work the next day or whatever, and that really wasn't the case at all.
Yeah, I think every single performer got love, and I mean, I didn't really start to see people heading out, you know, until like well into the freestyle, you know, after midnight or something. So people were definitely, you know, they were all there for the same reason. I know that you were selling merch all night, but was there a highlight moment for you from the show?
No, I guess the highlight was that there wasn't a highlight. It was so like uniform and across the board, kind of like you said. It was just like everybody was on the same page. And I mean, it's always cool when people tell you like, oh, I came from Albuquerque, or oh, I flew in from LA, or, you know, that's always cool. But in general, people were just like, you know, super supportive of everything and just excited to be there. And to me, that was kind of like the highlight of it, was just having everybody everybody that excited just to be there, even though they didn't really know like who all was going to be playing, or, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and it was cool because there's, you know, you have Jeremy Ylvisaker and Michelle Kernney and all these rap acts all together, and DJs and breakdancers, and everybody got love. And I think that Carnage as a host did a good job of like
tying it all together.
Yeah, he
like
would
piecing
relay
it. Yeah,
the significance of the next act, you know, through Michael's life, and you know, how they influenced each other, you know, as he's introducing them. And so instead of just having a bunch of acts go up,
yeah,
you know, I think he really
it's more of a story to it.
Yeah, you,
like a narrative.
You got to see other sides of EYEDEA just through, you know, the people he had known and collaborated with. So that was cool.
I also thought you did a really good job, though, of not just telling or saying like kind of like how they were related to EYEDEA, but like who they were, like in their own right. Because everybody who played last night, you know, they're not just there because they knew EYEDEA or whatever. You know, they're all like excellent artists in their, or dancers or whatever it is, in their own right. So I think he did a really good job of like emphasizing that, you know, like, oh, like I know this guy and he's like, you know, a poet and an author, you know, and like all that. I thought that was a really cool thing that he was able to do.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he sold you on him before you even saw who was coming up next. You were already stoked on it because of that. Probably my favorite moment was when he did Star Destroyer, just because I've seen him do that song a million times in a million rooms, you know, big and small. And just to see like the whole crowd spitting the lyrics back, and that was just awesome. And he did that beatbox at the end. I got like a 10-second clip of him doing the like EYEDEA.
Yeah.
EYEDEA. And it was deafening, so fucking loud, like every person in the room. That was awesome, man. You've been around for several of these events now. What was, because I wasn't there, like the year one, you guys did a show in Cherokee Park?
Well, I mean, right after he died, we did a show at First Avenue.
Oh, okay.
So he passed away on the 16th of October, and then on November 9th, there was a show at First Avenue.
Oh, is that the one, the cipher that's on the DVD?
Yep.
Okay, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and so that was like 3 weeks after he passed away.
Yeah.
So that was actually like kind of the first thing, and that was kind of something where there was no lineup announced at all, and so people really didn't know what they were getting into. But so it was most similar to that event in that it was at First Ave and it was on his birthday and everything. But really, like the two big events that we've done were the 1 year, which was the bench dedication ceremony in Cherokee Park. That was in 2011, and then this is the other like the biggest of the events we've done. It was the 5-year.
It's awesome that you guys and Kathy in particular is putting these things together, man. I remember coming out here for the first time when you booked The Illusionist, and you know, I wrote to Kathy, and you know, we had spoken a little bit before, but I just told her about the show, and she came out so that we could meet and talk, and you know, just right off the bat, like, I could see where, you know, Michael's like compassion and intuition came from, and you know, just to see her putting all of her effort and love into every single person who wants to come by the bench park, you know, or wants to, you know, do fan art or, you know, whatever it is, like, and then coming through and putting these enormous events together, such an undertaking. But I've told her a number of times, like, I don't think anybody else in your position would be able to do what you do, man. It's incredible.
I mean, like not a lot of people, but an unfortunately visible percentage of people online are like, oh, you're just doing this for money, like failing to realize that this is an event that like hemorrhaged money.
Yeah.
And it would be like much easier for her at any of point to not do any of these events and just say like, no, I'm not going to, you know, do these things or bring people into town or, you know, observe, you know, the 5-year or the, you know, put a bench in Cherokee Park. But instead she chooses to do it, and kind of everybody benefits from it, you know, instead of just being like, oh, you know, it's been 5 years since he passed. Like, there's this 5-year celebration where, you know, we flew in a bunch of his friends and everything, and everybody got together on a Monday night. You know, there was 1,500 people in the main room, you know, pretty much just to see all of his friends, you know, and hang out. So,
and this is a person who was, you know, actively involved behind the scenes back in the day with E&A and those tours with Atmosphere and all that stuff, you know, watching that develop. And so I think it's awesome that she just took that experience and went, you know what, no one else is going to do this. I'm going to be the promoter.
Yeah.
You know, I'm going to keep, you know, the label alive. And it's just, it's an awesome thing, man. And if she hadn't been so involved all of those years, you know, I'm sure it would be a different outcome.
Yeah.
But she's been that invested the whole time.
Yeah. Driving out to Scribble Jam and everything like that. Yeah. Throughout the years.
Yeah, I was surprised to hear that, you know, like when we were at South by and just...
well, even the fact that she's still at South and still going down to South by.
Yeah, well, and did that event this year too, the first Crush Kill showcase.
Yep.
All that stuff is huge. But yeah, just hearing her stories and experiences of really how deep she was in the whole thing makes a lot of sense when you see behind the scenes all of the work that goes into this stuff. You know, how she's able to have that drive and that know-how is because she was there all along.
Yep.
You've been involved in Crush Kill pretty much since the beginning of it, right?
Well, I mean, it was started back in like 06-ish, and that was for the year, like the original, you know, Carbon Carousel and Absorber CDs and the split EP that they did.
Yeah.
And I was on like the street team for a while, like handing out flyers and stuff, and doing consignment and stuff for various like record stores around the Twin Cities for those CDs. And then I, you know, finished up college and everything, and in 2010, that's when I kind of got involved again with Christoph Crane and Face Candy and all that. So yeah, I've been definitely the last like 5.5 years. I've been directly and consistently involved with it.
What what was kind of the mission statement when he started this thing? Because at the time is when he was starting to branch out and try different styles of music that weren't necessarily Rhymesayers projects, right?
Yeah, and I think kind of like the goal or mission of it unofficially was just like, there's this stuff that we want to do and there's not really a place for it, so let's make a place for it. Essentially was, you know, kind of like the almost like out of necessity, like, oh, like this doesn't really fit into the people that we've worked with before, so we're kind of gonna go over here and do our own thing.
Yeah, and that's a DIY, you know,
it's a natural progression. Yeah, definitely.
What were some of those earlier projects? Because, you know, when I came into the fold, it was kind of the second roster, more or less. You know, it's a little bit different now than what it was in the early days. So you had Carbon Carousel, Absorber.
It's really just Carbon Carousel and Absorber.
Okay.
There was just really those. They both had a full length, and then they had the split single. They both had done like previous versions of the full length that were like hand numbered, or Louis LaPierre did like a hand painted one for the Carbon Carousel thing.
Nice.
So a lot of it was kind of build around this exclusivity, or kind of like this handmade or hand painted versions of records that would come out kind of before like the normal CD or CD jewel case, you know, kind of thing. But yeah, really it was just those two bands.
And
so,
he pretty much produced that stuff all himself, right?
Produced
like those records that were coming out on Crush Kill were stuff that he pretty much recorded at his place.
Yeah, I think the first Absorber record was recorded there. I'm not 100%. I know he like mastered like the first EP and stuff, but
well, and then you get so when Christoph started putting out his solo work, that was a natural progression. If people don't know, Absorber was his first group, I believe.
It was. It was his first like time making music, basically.
Oh wow, yeah. So then he's making those records for Chris, and he was kind of involved in that recording process as well, right?
Well, I think he was involved, a lot in terms of I don't know if necessarily recording it, but like definitely giving him like feedback and that kind of thing, and telling him like kind of who to hit up for press, and that, you know, kind of more guiding, I guess, more like executive producing, or, you know, or working with him as just like a friend who wanted him to succeed and believed in the same things and, you know, his music and everything.
Yeah, I remember meeting Christoph and Sadistik directly through him. He had me and Webb come out to a show when they were coming through Portland, and it was right when Hunting for Father came out, and he was really, really excited about that record. And I remember taking it home and looking at it, and he had mastered it, and I was like, oh, this makes sense because it's fucking loud.
Yeah.
As loud as By the Throat.
Yeah.
No Birds Sing was part of the fold for a minute, weren't they?
Yep.
That was Graham, because Graham played in Absorber.
Yep.
And then that evolved to No Birds Sing, right?
I don't know if like evolved is the right word, but yeah, he, yes, then afterward, or I guess, afterwards started playing with Joe and Bobby and As No Bird Sing.
Yeah. And of course they eventually went on to Strange Famous, but the history of the stuff is definitely interesting to me. I have a lot of those records, and you recently made available to me some of the other ones that I didn't have.
Yep.
But man, there's just so much great music that probably would have never seen the light of day if he hadn't just decided, well, fuck it, let's do it ourselves, you know?
Yeah, and I think a lot of it was he had like the know-how that a lot of other people didn't have, or like kind of the ability to be like, hey, you can basically do this all on on your own, and you don't have to like be dependent on other people to do it, you know.
And that was kind of his approach from the beginning, too.
Yeah, to a lot of things, yeah.
Now, as you or Kathy told me that when he won the money from Blaze Battle and, you know, Scribble Jam and all that stuff, that he put Kathy through college, and then he built the studio. Is that right?
As far as I understand, like, I'm not entirely sure, but as far as I understand it, like, he used the Blaze Battle money to build a studio, and then put his mom through college with kind of like other money that he made off of you know, touring and everything.
Yeah.
So I you know, the same money and the same whatever, but yeah.
But so then, from pretty much day one, in terms of him like actually working on the records he put out, he decided, you know what, I'm not going to take this, you know, record deal that everyone's talked about, but or use this new spotlight for fame or whatever. He's like, I'm going to invest that back into the music, and he became self-sufficient forever at that point.
Yeah, and like I can't remember if it was a video or just like a you know, just a regular like newspaper interview that I read, where he was talking about because Firstborn is the only album that he did where it was completely recorded somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember him saying something about you know, if I want to go in and change like one little thing, I don't want to have to call somebody and book studio time and then go in, you know, and figure out and pay somebody else to change like one little thing. Like, I want to be able to just go in and do that, which I mean, is like a pretty simple statement, but when you actually think about that, you know, you have to like rewire your house to power that and know how to use everything. Like, it's actually much easier to just call somebody else and have them go in there and fix it.
I don't think so, though, man, because like I was talking to Ethan about this when we were over there on Sunday night, that you know, having the ability to just, when you're stricken with inspiration, you know, to put down your fork and spoon and walk out into the other room and hit record is a blessing that a lot of people don't have.
Well, I also think it's important to note though that he doesn't have like, he wasn't building like a little like bedroom studio. He's building like a full full thing. Yeah, it wasn't like, you know, oh, here's a place where I can record. It's, you know, here's a place where I'm going to record, you know.
Yeah. And you can hear that in you know, the quality of those records too. And that was kind of before everything was Pro Tooled to death as well. So, I mean, the fact that he's doing these crazy intricate vocal tracks as clean as they are was not from, you know, some studio trickery and shit. And I remember the night that I met him, we had just done the Illusionist sound check with the live band, and he approached me at the merch table and was asking questions about, you know, our group and what we do. He thought it was interesting style, and, you know, I was like, oh, Webb makes all the beats, and then for the shows we teach the band the songs, you know, that already existed, and we did them. You know, we're talking about how on that record we did our second album, Ill Is All, we wanted a really raw live sound, and I told him that I put the beats on through PA speakers, and we used handheld mics and just, you know, ran around the room like it was a live show and had all that background beat noise and everything. And he started telling me about how he's like, dude, I'll never do another like overproduced record again with, you know, all the extra backup vocals and ad libs and punches and all that stuff. He's like, man, he goes, with By the Throat, he's like, I lit a candle, I had a bottle of wine, I dimmed the lights, and I did every song like pretty much one take, you know.
I mean, what he told me is he did that I did all the vocals for By the Throat in one day.
Yeah, he said he did it in one sitting.
And I think Chris was there too, and like I think that it wasn't even like they stayed late into the night. It's like I think Chris had a show at like 7 or something like that. They did it in like 8 hours.
God damn, dude. That's pretty amazing.
Yep.
And I mean, if you listen to that record, though, it's raw, but it's not lacking in anything. It's got so much.
Yeah, it's not like unpolished or whatever sounding. Yeah,
yeah, and it still sounds great. It just goes to show that if you have good songs and a good performance,
you know what you want to say. Yeah,
you know, yeah. If you have the vision, you don't need all the extra shit.
Yeah,
you know. And I always appreciate that kind of minimalist approach. Like when I started Take 92, part of the reason I named it that is because I didn't want to do that kind of recording. I wanted to get performances, you know. And in those early days, sometimes I got shitty performances because I didn't want to do a million takes and go through that whole, you know, process of faking it. But over time, as I got more experience, you know, I was able to kind of find that balance between the live show and the recorded version, and just go in there and do it. And if it's heartfelt, then it's good, you know, even if it has some rough edges and stuff. And so I always and that was a few years before I met him. So hearing him say that was just kind of like reaffirming, like, yes, I need to keep doing this kind of stuff, you know, because like you'll do a feature with somebody, and a lot of times you don't do it in person, so they'll email you tracks, you know, and it's like, here's the lead vocal, and then there's like 4 tracks behind it of you know, filling in all the gaps of shit they didn't say and extra shit that it needs, and I'm like, but listen to all my verses, they're just one track.
Yeah.
Now I got to go add a bunch of shit to make it sound right with this guy.
Yeah, to match it. Yeah,
because that's like the standard, pretty much, is to cut it in pieces. Actually, I thought it was cool last night when Michelle was up there and Carnage said, you know, this is Mikey's vocal coach. I can't remember if it was on the stage or when I interviewed her, but talking about how, you know, she helped him learn to breathe and all that stuff. So when you hear a song like Now and you think, how the fuck can this guy do it, is because he worked at it.
Yeah.
You know, he, because you can have that idea and not be able to pull it off, you know?
Yeah.
A lot of musicians, I'm sure, have a thing that they want to try and can't quite do it. But if you're up there and you're doing ambitious shit, you know, he's not like, you know, a lot of rappers, they're not disciplined.
Yeah, no, yeah, and he was very disciplined in terms of like vocal, you know, like warm-ups and exercises and stuff. He would have, he had books on it and stuff. I know that he would actually go through and like do whatever exercises or routines it recommended. So yeah, he was definitely kind of saw like the bigger picture of, you know, like to be able to do stuff like Now or whatever, you know, you actually had to like not just be cool and like good at it, but like, you know,
kind of
work on
yourself.
other things. Work on like conditioning yourself to be able to do it.
Now you went on tour with EYEDEA.
Twice. Yep.
How was that?
It was really cool both times. The first time I was 20.
Damn, dude.
Yeah.
That's so fucking exciting.
Yeah. I was 20 and it was right at the end of summer. I was gonna go back to school, or college, you know, in the fall, and he called me up and he like woke me up, and it was like a Tuesday morning, and he was like, hey, like, would you ever want to like go do merch on tour with us and like, you know, help us out? And I was like, yeah, sure. And he's like, well, we leave Thursday. And so yeah, like I just, you know, figured it out, and like I was like, there's 2 weeks left before I go back to school. This tour's a week and a half. Like, I might as well just, I was working at a Subway at the time. I was like, might as well just quit my job.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's what I ended up going on tour with those guys for like 10 days or whatever it was. It was like a Southwest U.S., Colorado, New Mexico, a couple Texas states. Yeah, it was just a blast both times I did it. So I did it in 2008, summer of 2008 and summer of 2010.
What do you remember about that first tour and just, you being so green and thrown into it with these guys?
Yeah, it was like really overwhelming, actually. Like, I'd never, done, merch or done any of that, and had no clue how to do it. And the first night was in I think like Omaha or Lincoln, Nebraska, and I just remember Max at the end of the night being like, "Dude, come on, let's go! Like, you gotta figure out like who's owed what." And like, I just had no idea what I was doing, but it was like really cool at the same time to be like doing it, So,
what do you remember about those drives in the van? Because when you're on the road, man, it's just conversation all day long.
I remember we played about a lot of like. I can't remember the exact games, but they were like, it was all based on like movie. It was something that has to do with like movies and like knowing like, I can't remember if it's like movies that started with like a certain letter or like people that were in movies. It wasn't like an actual like board game or anything that we were playing.
It was a road game.
Road game, yeah. And I just remember just being put to shame because they had both seen like so many more.
Well, and they would have seen the same kind of ones too.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I mean, like, well, they're older than me to begin with, but then yeah, they just seen so many more movies and like whatever than I had. And yeah, it was the Southwest, and so it was a lot of like 8-hour drives. So like there was a lot of time in the van on that particular trip.
And how well did you know them at that point? Were you already doing the street team stuff at that point? And
yeah,
stuff?
but I mean that's like when I met Max. I met Max over at Kathy's house the morning we left.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'd seen E&A play and everything, and I'd seen him do shows and everything, but I'd never actually like met him before that. But I knew Michael fairly well. I mean, somewhat well at that point, through the Crush Kill stuff, and I'd been a fan since high school, so I was like definitely familiar with like their music. And
how did you first come into contact?
It was, I think I just started talking to Chris like after like an Absorber show. Actually, it was a show that it was a Absorber and Carbon Carousel. They both played at the Varsity Theater together. In I think it was like January of 2007 ish, might have been December. I was back for like a winter break, and I think they might have posted something or whatever about like a street team, and then kind of from there I became. It wasn't very memorable.
Yeah.
Basically.
Okay. But it sure turned into something awesome.
Yeah.
What was the second tour?
The second tour was actually what ended up being the last E&A tour. Which
was summer of 2010?
It was like July of 2010. It was with Christoph Crane, and Educated Consumers were on like the majority of the dates, but not like every single one.
I actually remember, I wasn't there because I didn't come to the Northwest, but I remember that tour coming up. It was like July 10th or something that he was telling Webb to finish, like, get me that first beat mixed, man. I want to hear that. We're leaving on the 10th or whatever.
Yeah.
And I remember him sending that first one, and Mike calling him on the phone and just nerding out how excited he was to try and redo it over his style and shit. And then they left on tour, and that's when Webb started making like a bunch of them, because at that point he had just made
a bunch of the first one. Throw remixes.
Yeah, the remixes. Yeah, because at that point, it had been a couple of months, and he was just like almost it's intimidating. Like, okay, what is the first thing that I send these guys? Because it's got to be something
standard,
really good, And so, he sent him this story, and I remember their reaction was just so encouraging that while you guys were out on the road, then he was just woodshedding and making 3 versions of every song and doing all that shit. But yeah, so where was that? Where did that tour end up going?
It was started in Cleveland, and then it was mostly East Coast dates. So we did like Buffalo, Toronto, New York City, Baltimore, Philadelphia, then kind of like worked our way back around through like Madison and Chicago. And actually EYEDEA played 2 festivals during it. They played a festival that was technically the first day of the tour, that then Chris and I drove out to Ohio. Then they flew out and met us there, and then Chris and I had like an extra day in New York City, and where they flew back and played the block party in Minneapolis. So there was 2 Minneapolis dates of it, neither of which I was there for.
Oh,
and then it was, I think, like 18 or 20 shows.
Nice. When you went on the first tour, that was kind of in there, almost like reuniting, trying out new material stuff.
Yeah.
Like because they disappeared for a little while Mike was doing side projects and whatever. And I remember I had seen them every time they came through Eugene, except that when they did the tour in like 2008. I can't remember why I couldn't make it, but I remember missing that one, and then hearing from my friends that they were playing new shit. I was like, wait, what? Like, I hadn't heard anything from them since 2004 or something, 2005. Do you remember like them trying out that new material and then going out there after it had...
I don't remember any differences about it, but I remember just being blown away by Burn Fetish was one of the songs that they were playing back in 2008 on that tour. They were playing Burn Fetish and Skydiver, I think, were the 2 songs that they were playing off of By the Throat.
How were people reacting to that stuff in the early days?
I mean, I think I just remember like people would come up to the merch table and be like, "What was that song?" It was like, I mean, it was like one of like the unreleased ones. I don't think it was even. I don't know if it was like called Burn Fetish then, but that was the one that really blew me away. Hearing that live,
and that was
hearing that for the first time, rather.
That was like one of the more hip hop sounding songs on that record. So that was probably a good introduction.
Yeah, and then Skydiver is kind of like one of the more weird.
Yeah,
it's
got the like
airy
2 different break
of,
beats over the top of each other, left and right, and that big like spacey lack of chorus where it just kind of breathes. That's interesting to me because I remember when I first heard Spin Cycle, I was like, what the fuck is this? Because you're hearing for the first time all this live instrumentation. And I met Jeremy last night, and he was telling me a little bit about that too. And, they had been doing Carbon Carousel, and Max had these beats. And like, were you in the loop on any of that stuff when he was... like starting to play guitar and bass and stuff like that on the beats?
No, I mean, obviously, like I saw Carbon Carousel shows and stuff, but I mean, I guess I didn't see any of it firsthand, but it kind of follows logically that after doing something like Carbon Carousel, the next EYEDEA album would have to be affected by that direction that he was heading. Like there's no way you could do that much of like a 180 where you're like, a rap, just like a straight up rapper, battle rapper. And then you start playing instruments and playing in a band.
Yeah, when basically like your last record says, "I'm a b-boy, that's the best way to define me." And then the next record you put out is alternative rock.
Like grungy,
like noisy.
Yeah.
That's a pretty big shift for sure. And on my end, on the West Coast or in Oregon anyway, like that music wasn't around really, you know.
Yeah.
Those Crush Kill projects weren't making it that far out, and so it was a total surprise.
Yeah.
You know, to a lot of us, and I'm sure in different parts of the country, because you're getting to see the evolution firsthand here in town.
Well, yeah, like a lot of the side projects, like Carbon Carousel only played like 10 or 12 shows total.
Wow.
Almost all of them were in Minneapolis. The same with like Puppy Dogs and Ice Cream. I think they did like 7 or 8 shows total. Again, you know, I think all of those were in Minneapolis, or maybe one was in like Duluth or something like that. But they're all, you know, within 3 hours of here. So it's like, yeah, there
very
wasn't
much a localized thing.
Yeah, unless you like really, I mean, back then, unless you found them on MySpace and clicked like the add to cart PayPal, you know, button, like you weren't. There's no way you're gonna get to hear that. You know, there wasn't Spotify, there wasn't anything like that. You know, I think that's what a lot of people forget. Like that was only like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
You know, and
it was harder to come by for sure. I remember when we were talking that first show just about recording. Then we ended up talking about music and records that we were inspired by at the time. And, you know, he's telling me about Kill the Vultures and stuff like that. And I'd never even heard the name at all. So I'm like writing it down. He's like, yeah, go to their MySpace and
got 4 songs
message
on there.
them. And you can order the CD. And so I went on there and I messaged Crescent Moon, and I was like, hey man, I was just recommended to check out your music. I want to order this, you know. And it's not like a real store, so like I sent him money and then it never came. And so like a month later I messaged him again and I was like, hey, what did you ever send that? What happened? Did it get lost in the mail? And he's like, oh, I forgot about that. He's like, let me send you Careless Flame too. And so I got like both of those records in one day, and I remember sitting down and opening them and just listening to them back to back. Like, Jesus Christ! Like, how did I miss this amazing shit?
Yeah. I mean, like I can definitely remember like mailing checks to people that whose CD I wanted.
Yeah.
You know, and like, you know, that was in college, and that wasn't that long ago.
So here we are, a few years later, and you know, now. You're the one kind of behind
mailing them out.
Yeah, you're the one behind getting that to people. So what do you see is the future of Crush Kill? Like what keeps you doing it all this time?
I just don't like, well, one, like just kind of keeping everything like available and around, and keeping like on doing stuff like, you know, like South by Southwest showcases, and obviously not like frequently, but events like the 5 year, there's just like a necessity for that, and also just kind of having the hand in like making stuff that wouldn't maybe otherwise be available, or that people wouldn't otherwise like know about, kind of bring that to the forefront, and hopefully like helping artists, you know, like reach more people based on the fact that I've been like dedicated to it for the last like 5 years, and there's like a somewhat of a following for it, and also just being able to kind of like get creative with it, and, you know, package stuff how I want to, and I don't know, get show fans that I appreciate that they're checking it out, you know, getting stuff for them quickly and throwing in extra stuff, and
you
just
guys
kind of doing like unique stuff.
Yeah, you guys do different things that, and you're engaged with the audience. I mean, you know what people want.
Yeah.
You know, and even just getting out, like it might seem silly to people who have been listening for years, you know, to E&A stuff, but you know, you said last night at the 5 year celebration show, you brought like a dozen Firstborn CDs and sold out of them. So it's like, there's still people being introduced to his music all the time, and you're getting it out there to people who might not have come across it.
Yeah, and also just like on a bigger level, like I'm just very like into and excited by like when I hear cool music, like whether or not I'm putting it out or have any stand in it, like financially or whatever. I like just having that, like that Facebook page I can post on and be like, here's this cool new record I found. It might be like some weird punk record or whatever, but like, I don't know, like I'm just like, I get excited by finding new music and I want to share it with people. And it's not about like the bottom line. Like I don't obviously, stand like profit or anything by posting some random punk band's like Bandcamp page.
Yeah.
But it's cool that I can show people stuff and like maybe they'll check it out. So,
yeah, and I mean, all of us who are part of this community were fans first.
Oh yeah.
And that shows, I think, 100%.
Yeah. And I definitely like still think of myself like first and foremost as like a fan of what stuff I'm selling and whatever, just because that's kind of how it, like what it grew from. It grew from like handing out flyers or like just being at shows and being like, hey, it'd be cool if there were more people at this show. you know? So
well, and when you guys decided to keep it going after he passed, did Kathy approach you or did you approach her because you were kind of in the fold already? Or
I don't know, it was weird. It wasn't even really a conversation. It was just like necessity. I just booked a tour for Chris, Sadistik, and
the Kaz one?
No, Noah 23. No, this was like it never happened. We had to cancel it.
Oh, okay.
It was like the Leave the Summer tour.
That's the one that, okay, Sadistic mentioned that in the song Michael. The me and Christoph were supposed to go on tour.
That's when I met Cody. When I met Cody was the same day. It was like the day after Michael died. Was the first time I ever met Cody.
Oh wow.
Yeah, like I met him, and then Chris came out and told me that Michael had passed away. It was a crazy way to meet him. But yeah, I just booked that tour. Then we canceled it. So I kind of had like 2 weeks that I didn't have to be anywhere because I was going to go on that tour.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So I'd booked all, like, it was, I think 16 shows in 15 days or something. Cause there was like one all ages, then house party or something like that night. So yeah, I was literally given like the PayPal login and then like I just figured it out from there.
Man.
And there was a ton, like, obviously when he passed away, there was a lot of attention and like press and stuff. So randomly all of his like, all the Carbon Carousel stuff and like his poetry books, where it was like literally like a PayPal button embedded in a MySpace site.
Oh, so you're getting like an influx of new attention.
Yeah. It was like 5 days after he passed, or 4 or 5 days after he passed away. It's like, here's the PayPal password. And he hadn't shipped anything in like a month. He'd done like pre-orders on a poetry book.
Oh yeah.
And then he had been like assembling them the night before he passed away. And so there was like a couple hundred things to ship. And I'd no direct experience with shipping out merchandise or anything like that.
Yeah.
So I was just kind of thrown into it.
Well, it's awesome that that you jumped in, had your trial by fire, and kept it going this long. It's amazing. And as someone who came into the fold, in this second 5 years, it's great to me that I knew him for a very short time, and we only had a very few interactions, but he was so genuine and supportive, and for a guy that I'd listened to for years at that point, since I was a freshman in high school, and to get that encouragement and that validation and him treating it like a real friendship was just so exciting, and to have the rug pulled out all of a sudden was just so I mean, it was just so blindsiding. I mean, I'm sure for everyone it just felt so weird for me because I went from like longtime fan to, you know,
I think a lot
barely friends and then gone, and so the fact that like Kathy and you and just everybody, you know, Carnage and Sid and Seez Mics and, you know, Christoph and Sadistik, and, you know, whether I met him before or after, the fact that everybody he touched just came together like family, you know?
Yeah.
And you guys continue to give us a reason to come together and see each other. And, you know, like Carnage was just saying yesterday, man, like we've known each other 5 or 6 years at this point, but we've seen each other more times, you know, this year than since, you know, we toured together back on Death of a Salesman. So, you know, it's just such a tremendous experience to be able to come back from thousands of miles away and be part of this thing with everybody. So just thank you, and thank Kathy for everything you guys do, man.
Yeah, and it's definitely like a two-way street. Like, it's been an awesome year for us in terms of the Many Faces of Mikey coming out. The Then and Now DVD was like December of last year technically, but then, you know, the South by Southwest thing, the 5 years. It's just been like a crazy year. But at the same time, it's also in that, like, you know, we get to see everybody and hang out at like South by Southwest and like this weekend. So it's cool in terms of, it's like an insane amount of work, but yeah, getting everybody in like the same place at the same time, you know, from whether they're, you know, down in Austin or out in Eugene or, you know, out in Maryland. It's really a cool thing that it keeps bringing us all like back together to hang out.
And all people that, you know, met him at totally different times in our lives and his, had totally unique circumstances, but all had the same feeling about it in the way that he inspired them to do better, or he saw something,
whatever it was,
or he saw something that we didn't see in ourselves, you know. And so it's like everyone trying to navigate life with that new outlook, you know, or that optimism that he gave them, and it's just really exciting. And you and I had a conversation around the time of Famous Last Words coming out. I've been grateful for, you know, we've done a few records together now, so I was really excited when I said, hey, I've got, you know, this new thing, Famous Last Words, you know, would you be interested in doing another one? I know we just did Bears Repeating last year, and you're like, oh, absolutely. And I was like, don't you want to hear it first? And you're like, no, let's do it, man. I got your back. And I was so excited by that, but then when it came out and we talked, and it was right after the whole Austin South by thing, and you were just going on and on about. I remember it was Easter Sunday, because I had barricaded myself in the other room at my mom's house, and she's like, "Come on, we're sitting down to dinner." I was like, "No, I can't right now," because you were just going off about how exciting it was watching everyone's growth the last couple years and seeing all of our friends just doing great things, and you know, realizing kind of our potentials within ourselves and
like together,
and building each other up. And I don't know, I just that was a memorable conversation,
definitely,
to me. Your enthusiasm was contagious.
I forget that it was Easter, but yeah, I definitely remember that.
Yeah, that was awesome. Do you think we're gonna do another South by? Is that going to be a recurring?
I mean, I would love to. That's kind of dependent on the Slop Musket guys, but I mean, I talked to Carnage last week, and he's definitely into it. I would love to. I know I'll probably go either way. So
cool.
I'll be there, whether or not there's a Crush Kill showcase, but it would be 10 times better if there were.
Yes.
So,
well, hit me up one way or another.
Yep.
That'd be awesome. Well, is there anything else you wanted to touch on before we go to the airport and I fly home?
Nope. I'm ready for my 5th trip to the airport this weekend.
I'm sorry. All right, man. Well, thanks again for everything you do and for putting me up in your house here. And
thanks for having me on your podcast.
Yeah. Hopefully we'll do it again before too long.
Definitely.
Well, if you made it this far, I sincerely thank you. We had a spectacular night, really amazing performances, just truly awesome amount of love in the room that night from all the artists, the fans, the friends, the family. Thank you to everybody who supports EYEDEA, continues to share his music and keep him alive. Major shout out to Kathy once again for putting this together, and all my love to my man DJ Abilities. It's great to see you up there again. We're going to leave you with a track called Step by Step. This is one of my favorites from EYEDEA's solo album, Many Faces of All of Her Heart, and this version's actually a remix from Jeremy Ylvisaker that Kathy put on a new compilation called The Many Faces of Mikey. So if you've been after any of those rare tracks, trying to get anything else from EYEDEA, see what was left behind, that's a great way to start. So look up The Many Faces of Mikey on michaellarson.com. This is Step by Step, the remix.
See, it was September 1st, 1999, the day of my death. My back was on the cold concrete as I took my last breath. And I saw my body laying on the ground as my soul hovered above it. Damn, EYEDEA, you was a good-looking cat. But anyway, another day at 18 years of age, stepping to heaven's gates, anxious to see what God's got to say. Maybe he'll give me a gift for always saying my prayer. But he might send me downstairs for last year's love affair. Well, who cares? You know, right now it's all a mystery. I mean, I find out when I get there. Until then, I can't let it get to me. I'm keeping my cool. Besides, everybody dies. I'll just follow the white light like they do in the movies. It seemed like hours went by and I'm still traveling right towards the brightness. Now this ain't heaven or hell, this realm is lifeless. And I hate to say it, but this wild goose chase had me bored. No directions, no clues, and no idea what I was in for. But then forward I kept floating, and in a quick flash the light split directly in half and created a forked path representing each side was an angel. Now what's the task I have to untangle to meet the big man in charge, I asked. And the one to the right of me said, one of us always lies and one always tells the truth. Ask the right one the right question and he'll direct you to heaven. But if you ask the wrong one, son, farewell, you're going straight to, well, y'all get the picture. And the one on my left told me not to listen to his fibs. He said it ain't that complicated to find out where God lives. He told me to follow his path and tell God he said hi. Then the one on my right jumped in and told me not to believe his lies. And I'm like, Jesus fucking Christ. I didn't care much for life, but I'd have tried to stay alive forever if I knew this is what death was like. I was never good at problem solving, especially in emergencies. I get a tad bit nervous when concerned with burning for eternity. But anyways, I asked them which one lied, and they pointed at each other. Then thinking I had it, I asked them the name of my mother. One said he don't know, the other said he know, but he can't tell me. God damn, this is gonna be hard. And so I asked like 30 questions and I still wasn't sure. Then being me, I got pissed and gave them pricks a few good words. Frustrated with it all, I turned my back to the angels. And when I walked away, to my surprise, I found myself in heaven. That's how I walked into heaven. I walked away, walked straight into heaven. Walked away, walked straight into heaven. Walked away, walked straight into heaven.